Let's get the drawing. Horror, horror, horror. Horror, 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 horror. Let me set up some OBS stuff. I don't know what normal bitrate is supposed to be. I think it's 2K maybe. Sketchy. Just some warm up.
First time I saw you on the city lights, I didn't think much.
I like the tapering on this brush.
If I had known then, would I know now?
Tapering, where is the tapering settings?
Would have stood there
Tapper.
more proud. Maybe a better shirt, maybe better shoes.
Okay.
Maybe I'd say something.
Yeah, it's better.
Cool, but you were just someone passing me by. Now you're the reason I stay up at night. I didn't know I like you this much. I didn't know I like you this much. Now every night gets a little too long. Every small song sounds a little too much. I didn't know I like you this much. I didn't know I like you this much. I was just fine, I was just me. Now I'm not who I used to be. What are you doing tonight after 10?
So hot.
Are you with someone laughing again? Do you
Fuck
drink
a sweater.
coffee when it gets late? Do you talk softly when you feel safe? I lie in my bed with my phone face down, like I don't care, but I care somehow. Have I ever crossed your quiet mind? Or am I just at night? I didn't know I like you this much. I didn't know I like you this much. Now every night
Should I close my Xiaohongshu shoe so I cannot?
every small song sounds a little too much.
I didn't know I like you this much.
I didn't know I like you this much.
Holy shit.
I was just me. Now I'm not who I used to be. Maybe it's all in my head. somehow you miss me too. I didn't know I'd like you this much. I didn't know I'd like you this much. Now every night gets a little too long. Every small song sounds a little too much.
I didn't know I like you this much.
I didn't know I'd like you this much. I was just fine, I was just me. Now I'm not who I used to be. I didn't know I'd like you this much. I didn't know I'd like you this much. If I had known from the start, I would have shown you a better heart. I know you won't be there. I know that part is true. Still I change my shirt twice, like I might run into you. I fix my hair too long, then
Let's draw a high angle.
looking a little better.
Hello.
Make you show up somehow. There are pretty girls outside walking down the street, but they all look kinda normal next to what you are to me. You don't have to do much, you don't have to try. You just walk into a room and I forget the other lights. You won't be there, but what if you are? I fix my shirt like it matters that hard. You won't show up, but what if you do? I spend all day looking ready for you. It's so dumb, but I can't stop. You're not even here, and I'm already caught. I walk a little slower past places you could be. I know it's kinda stupid, but it feels good to me. Maybe you're just typing, maybe checking the time, maybe holding a pen while something's on your mind. I don't wanna bother you, I don't want too much. I just want one small second inside a day you touched. Your coworkers are lucky to get the normal you, the small talk, the tired smile, the things I never get to. You won't be there, but what if you are? I fix my shirt like it matters that hard. You won't show up, but what if you do? I spend all day looking ready for you. It's so dumb, but I can't stop. You're not even here, and I'm already caught. Your watch gets your wrist, your chair gets your name, your coat gets your shoulder at the end of the day. Your pen gets your hand, your screen gets your eyes. I get one dumb maybe that keeps me up at night. Maybe that's too much, maybe that's fine. Some people want forever, I just want your time. You won't be there, but what if you are? I fix my shirt like it matters that hard. You won't show up, but what if you do? I spend all day looking ready for you. It's so dumb, but I can't stop. You're not even here, and I'm already caught. I know you won't be there. I still dress like you could. That probably says too much, but I wish you understood.
I draw this angle so much. I feel like I cannot draw from this side. It feels awkward when I draw from this side. It's like drawing with my left hand for some reason. I need to do this. Alright, but if I do that too often, then I will lose my ability to draw from this side. Stupid.
But I do again. I don't even know your favorite song, but somehow you stay in my head too long. I think about you too much. I think about you too much. I try to stop, I try to act cool, but every small thing turns into you. I think
Xiao
about you.
Xiao Hong's shoe. Maybe maybe I don't want to draw. Maybe I want to animate. Let's try animating. Fuck.
When you need both hands and there's nowhere to write, you put your pen between your lips sometimes, and I hate my mind for going there, but I see you.
Let's draw some.
Voice sounds good, even saying small things like see you later or how you been. Then I go
Fuck.
and hear it again like
Nah.
whispering
I don't want to draw.
to my ear. I think about you too
Wait, what?
I think about you too much. I try to stop, I try to act cool, but every small thing turns into you. I think about you too much.
I wanna draw some.
Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's true. I think about you too much. I don't know your mornings, I don't know your room, I don't know who gets to be close to you, but I know that lip balm, I know that smile, I know your voice can ruin my night. I know the way you look away. I know I think too much these days, or maybe that's what a crush can do. It makes a whole world from one small view. I think about you too much. I think about you too much. I try to stop, I try to act cool, but every small thing turns
Let me scan my Rat Knot app so I can log in.
I think about you.
Can log in.
Maybe it's nothing.
Sure. No, Rat Knot.
I think about you.
I like the reference I get from Red Knot.
I think about you too much. I think about you too much. I barely know
Oh my god.
you, but somehow I do. I think about you too much.
What the? Cannot scan it. Fuck. My camera, fuck.
All day you were in my head, and every little song
The fuck is this song, bruh?
chest.
Give me a real song.
On a busy street, every shirt I saw looked like you to me. I turned once.
What is Deco new song? Dummy Romance. Yeah, 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 yeah. Fuck. I got distracted. Games. Maple Story. BGM. Untuk patok. Hala kawaii. Who's my cute little retard? He's so cute. Alright, peace break. But you know, there is another way to get inspired. You gotta look at your friend's drawing. Maybe I need to do a little more visualization. Or you know, when I think too much sometimes, like I gotta sometimes I think too much about drawing, that should I draw this, should I do that, if I do it like this, would it take too long to finish, and end up not drawing at all. Stupid. Maybe I should finish all drawing that I did. Did I do any drawing? Should I finish everything? The one that I want to finish. Right, portrait is kinda easy to do. Stop thinking too much and just draw. I know. No, I know this. I know how to fix it, but holy fuck. It's like dreading. I don't know. Gosh. Actually, let's just continue on this. Let's slowly draw till we finally see something, see movement in the drawing. Let's make the boobs, yeah, gotta stand out. Yeah. あなたの愛情る Don't like it. Don't like it. Don't like it. I feel like it's easier for me to draw from a low or like low angle, something like that, than to draw from a higher angle. I don't know why. I don't like things. I don't like many characters. I don't like characters. I don't like. There's not that many characters that I like, so it's kind of confusing. Sometimes I just draw whatever. Yeah. I don't like this angle either. Like, I've done this many times, so I kinda hate doing these angles. It feels like I'm doing the same things over and over again. But this is like the easiest angle that I can do, because I already done this many times. Let's draw a box. I usually get ideas this way because the angle is divine, not divine, like already defined. So I just need to think about the drawing, not the angle or the perspective. Like this is the top angle. I just need to draw the character within this box.時を今あなたに思い出せてね素直になるの私この先をそばにいてよいから君が好きよ今あなたに思い出せてね気づいたsome reason I cannot draw when at this angle, like lower angle, like high angle, without drawing this bounding box. It kinda give me a imaginary view on where things should be, but without this I cannot really sketch a top view like that. It's a bit hard. Maybe because I don't even draw that circle, I usually just go straight and sketch the outline of the piece. 5-second drawing, 5 seconds browsing, 10 minutes doom scrolling. Arimasu ka. Sleepy, 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 sleepy. I'm gonna die. I'm so bored. I'm so bored. I'm so bored. Ooh. Oh. 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 Ooh. Ooh. I'm gonna. Ay, sareta. Okay, let's draw. Fuck. Let's draw. Let's draw. Let's draw. References. I Saturday, Saturday.
There's a story about Carl Jung that most people misunderstand. A woman once came to him completely shattered by betrayal. She kept repeating the same sentence
Shall
over
watch
and
what I
over.
you
"I
should
don't
watch what I
understand how they could do this
what
to
I
me."
watch.
She wasn't crying because someone lied to her. She was crying because the person she imagined never actually existed.
Where's my
And Jung noticed
Firefox?
something disturbing. The pain wasn't coming from reality, it's of fantasy. Because deep down, the human mind does something dangerous with people it admires, loves, fears, or desires. It fills in the missing parts. You meet someone confident, and your mind assumes they are loyal.
Display
You meet someone
capture?
attractive,
No.
and your mind assumes they are kind.
Window capture.
You meet someone who understands you emotionally once, and suddenly you start building an entire personality around them that
Name
was
is
never
already
truly
used
there.
Firefox
Most
browser.
people are not in relationships with others. They are in
Select the
relationships with
capture.
projections. And
Firefox.
eventually, reality arrives like a knife. Not loudly, quietly, in delayed
Oh
replies,
yeah.
in disrespect disguised as jokes.
Let's watch
in
this
sudden
together.
distance after you stop being useful.
Dance
In the strange
together.
feeling that someone only values you when you are emotionally available to them. You've probably felt this before without fully admitting it. That moment when you slowly realize the version of someone inside your head feels warmer than the real person standing in front of you. That realization changes you, because once you see it, you start noticing how often people perform versions of themselves depending on who they are around. The loyal friend around you becomes a different person in another room. The nice person suddenly turns
look,
cruel when they
let's
gain social
separate
power.
this
The
tab.
person who said they loved honesty becomes defensive the
It's
moment
my
you speak
other.
honestly. And the unsettling part is this. Most people are not consciously pretending. They genuinely believe they are the mask they perform. Carl Jung believed every human being carries a shadow, the hidden part of themselves they refuse to acknowledge. And the more someone avoids confronting that shadow, the more artificial their personality becomes. That's why some people feel strangely empty after you know them long enough, because eventually the performance starts glitching, the mask slips, and for 1 second you see the insecurity underneath the charm, the envy underneath the support, the control underneath the affection. People don't fear being seen. They fear being seen completely. And maybe that's why the moment you stop romanticizing people feels so unsettling. Because you realize how much of your suffering came from loving illusions your own mind created for them. After that realization, something subtle begins changing inside you. You stop listening only to words. You start studying patterns, and patterns reveal things people spend their entire lives trying to hide. You notice how some people only become affectionate when they feel you pulling away, how respect suddenly appears after distance, how attention increases the moment you stop chasing it. It becomes impossible not to see. Human behavior is deeply reactive. Most people don't value what is present. They value what feels difficult to secure. That's why kindness is often ignored until it disappears. Kindness without boundaries quietly teaches people how to use you. And the frightening part is how early this conditioning begins. In school, you probably saw it without understanding it. The quietest student becoming the target simply because they tolerated disrespect. The confident person receiving admiration despite treating others poorly. The one who constantly sacrificed for everyone slowly becoming invisible, as if human beings unconsciously organize themselves around power long before morality enters the picture. Carl Jung believed that what people reject in themselves gets projected onto others. And once you understand projection, social life becomes psychologically disturbing. The insecure accuse others of seeking attention. The dishonest obsess over loyalty. The controlling call themselves protectors. The people most terrified of abandonment often become the ones who emotionally suffocate others. Everyone reveals themselves eventually, not through confession, through repetition. That's why awareness changes your relationships forever. You stop judging isolated moments and begin observing consistent behavior over time, and consistency exposes reality. The friend who only contacts you during emotional crises, the person who subtly competes with you in every conversation, The relationship where vulnerability somehow always becomes ammunition later. At first, these realizations hurt, because your mind wants to defend people, especially the ones you invested emotions into. So you rationalize everything. They're just stressed. They didn't mean it. That's just how they are. But eventually a darker thought enters your mind. What if you've been translating disrespect into misunderstanding simply because you feared losing people? That question changes everything, because many relationships survive only through denial, not love. Denial. Denial keeps families functioning. Denial keeps toxic friendships alive for years. Denial keeps people emotionally attached to those who have already stopped valuing them. Most relationships don't end when respect disappears. They end when awareness appears. And awareness creates distance, not always physically, psychologically. You begin feeling detached in conversations that once mattered deeply. Certain compliments start sounding transactional. Certain acts of affection begin feeling strategic rather than
I
sincere.
think things being
You
transactional
stop
is
being
not bad.
hypnotized by charm, and once that
I like when
happens,
things are
social dynamics
transactional.
become
That
impossible
means
to ignore. You
there
notice
is
how groups
value in
silently
things.
punish authenticity, how people become uncomfortable when someone refuses to perform, how honesty threatens entire social structures built on polite deception, because most social systems are not built on truth. They are built on mutual agreement, an agreement to avoid saying what everyone already sees. And the person who breaks that illusion first usually becomes the problem. That's the strange punishment that comes with seeing reality clearly. You become harder to manipulate, but also harder to belong anywhere.
I like
Because
to
once you
think
start
that everything
romanticizing
in
people,
this world
you
is
start realizing how much of
transactional.
social life depends on performance.
Like
Watch how people
everything.
change depending on status. The insecure become overly agreeable around authority. The confident suddenly become dismissive around weakness. Even morality shifts depending on social reward. Someone will condemn betrayal publicly while secretly betraying people in private. Someone will preach honesty while carefully constructing an image designed to control perception. And most disturbing of all, many people don't even realize they're doing it. Carl Jung understood something brutal about human nature. The ego will protect its self-image at almost any cost. People want to believe they are good. So instead of confronting their darkness, they create explanations for it. Cruelty becomes being honest. Manipulation becomes love. Control becomes protection. Jealousy becomes concern. The human mind is terrifyingly skilled at disguising its true motives, especially from itself. That's why some of the most dangerous people are not the openly malicious ones. They are the ones completely convinced of their own innocence. And if you've lived long enough, you've probably encountered this type of person before. The friend who constantly tears you down for your own good. The partner who makes you feel guilty for needing space. The person who creates emotional chaos, then acts wounded when you react to it. They drain your energy while maintaining the image of being the victim. Because victimhood itself can become power. The moment you understand this, your perception of human interaction changes permanently. You stop focusing only on what people say. You start asking, what emotional outcome does this person want from me? That question reveals almost everything. Some people want admiration. Some want obedience. Some want emotional dependence. Some simply want someone beneath them so they can temporarily escape their own feelings of inadequacy. People rarely seek connection as purely as they claim. Often, they seek regulation, a way to soothe the emptiness they cannot face alone. And this is where the illusion of romance begins collapsing too. Because many relationships are not built on love. They are built on unconscious psychological contracts. I will make
It's
you feel
called
valuable
condition.
if you make me feel wanted. I will save you if you never leave me. I will admire you if you protect me from loneliness. This is why people change so suddenly once the emotional transaction stops benefiting
Wait, I
them.
just think about this
Not because they
yesterday.
became different overnight, because the mask was attached to a condition, and conditions eventually reveal themselves. You can see this most clearly after success, failure, or transformation. Become successful, and hidden envy appears. Become vulnerable, and hidden disrespect surfaces. Set boundaries, and hidden entitlement reveals itself. Nothing exposes human nature faster than changing the role people assigned to you. The quiet person becomes confident. The agreeable person starts saying no. The insecure person begins healing. Suddenly, the people who claim to love them start becoming uncomfortable. Why? Because some relationships were unconsciously built around your weakness. People don't always love who you are becoming. Sometimes they love who you used to be when you were easier to control, and that realization doesn't make you hate humanity. It simply
Wait,
removes
is it
the
raining?
fantasy. Once the fantasy disappears, loneliness starts feeling different.
Sounds like
Not
it's raining
heavier,
outside.
sharper. You begin realizing that being surrounded by people and being understood are completely different experiences. Some of the loneliest people have active phones, crowded rooms, relationships,
I saw
conversations
it.
every day.
I saw
But
it.
nobody around them truly sees them beyond utility,
Oh,
identity,
shit.
or expectation. And maybe you felt this before without knowing how to describe it. That strange exhaustion after socializing. The feeling that you were present physically but absent psychologically. Like you spent hours performing a version of yourself that kept everyone comfortable while the real you remained hidden underneath. Carl Jung believed that the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents. But the same pattern continues everywhere in adulthood too. Society rewards masks early. Be agreeable, be attractive, be successful, be useful, be emotionally digestible. Slowly, people stop asking themselves who they truly are and begin asking a more dangerous question. What version of me gets accepted fastest? And once a person builds their identity around acceptance, authenticity starts feeling threatening. That's why genuinely self-aware people often make others uncomfortable without trying. Their presence exposes performance. A person who no longer desperately seeks validation becomes difficult to control. A person comfortable with solitude becomes difficult to manipulate. A person who sees through emotional games stops feeding them, and people notice this immediately, even if nobody says it out loud. There's a reason some individuals lose friends after becoming more confident, disciplined, or emotionally independent. Growth changes social balance. The insecure friend suddenly feels inferior. The controlling partner loses influence. The attention seeker no longer receives constant reassurance. And beneath all of this sits a disturbing truth most people avoid confronting. Many relationships are held together less by love and more by unconscious mutual dependency. One person needs admiration, the other needs purpose. One needs emotional rescue, the other needs to feel needed. It
Why am I
fluctuates.
drawing out of
One
the box?
person evolves,
Like,
then suddenly the
literally.
relationship begins cracking in places nobody expected.
Look, I
Because awareness
extend this
distorts
much, but there is
unconscious
like
contracts.
this
This is why healing
awkward
feels socially
space
When
up
you stop
there.
tolerating disrespect,
Yeah,
manipulative
this should
people
be
call you selfish.
more
When you stop over-explaining yourself, insecure people call you distant.
right.
When you stop chasing approval, some people lose interest entirely. Not because you became worse, because your role changed. And most human relationships are
Let's
far
draw,
more
draw,
important
draw,
than
draw,
what to
draw,
admit. The funny
draw.
friend, the strong one,
I love
the
drawing.
listener, the helper. The moment you stop
People
performing
these
your
often
assigned
say
role,
they
people
hate
react as if
drawing,
you
but they keep
violated an
drawing
invisible
and they
agreement,
draw really
because
good.
in many cases, you did.
I like to think
The
differently.
terrifying realization is that very few people actually
I
want
love
complete
drawing.
authenticity. Complete authenticity disrupts social comfort. Imagine if everyone openly admitted their jealousy, insecurity,
I
need
love
for
that
validation,
it made me
resentment, fear of
suffer.
abandonment, desire for control. Most
I
relationships would
saw it
collapse under the weight of
I saw
honesty.
it
So society survives through partial truth, carefully managed masks, polite performances, mutual avoidance. And the person who begins seeing this clearly often goes through a strange psychological shift. They stop feeling shocked by human behavior because they finally understand it. And understanding human nature
I
too
understand
deeply
it
creates a
now.
dangerous temptation. Detachment, not peaceful detachment, cold detachment, the kind where you begin expecting manipulation before kindness, self-interest before loyalty, performance before sincerity. At first it feels intelligent, protective. You tell yourself you're
Sometimes it's
finally
not
woken
even
up, that you see
manipulation.
people for what they are now. But this
Is
is where
how
many people
people grow up.
misunderstand Jung completely, because seeing the darkness in others is only half the journey.
So
The real
even
horror
if you
begins
think
when you
about it,
recognize the same
sometimes
darkness inside yourself.
what you think about is
That
not
moment
really the
usually arrives
truth.
quietly.
The
You catch
truth
yourself
is they
enjoying
don't
someone's
really think
failure,
much of it.
feeling secretly
You got
validated
that
when
answer
another person
because
becomes insecure around you.
you're asking for the
Withholding
answer.
affection to regain
Damn.
control, performing confidence while hiding fear, pretending not to care
I
because
need to
caring
do
feels
this kind
dangerous.
of video as
And
well.
suddenly,
I think
the
I'll
image of yourself
excel
as
in it.
different starts collapsing too. That's the shadow Jung warned about. Not evil, hidden humanity. The parts of yourself you separated from your identity because they felt unacceptable. Jealousy, neediness, ego, manipulation, cruel fantasies, the desire to dominate. the desire to be worshipped, the desire to be chosen over others. Most people spend their entire lives pretending these impulses don't exist. But repression does not destroy darkness. It buries it alive, and buried things influence behavior from underneath. That's why the people who appear morally superior are sometimes the most psychologically dangerous. Their shadow becomes so denied that it leaks out unconsciously through passive aggression, emotional control, judgment, or hidden resentment. The human mind is strange. The more innocent someone desperately needs to appear, the more carefully you should observe them. Because true self-awareness usually creates humility, not perfection. A person who has confronted their shadow understands what they are capable of under the right conditions. They understand that morality is often far more fragile than society admits. Place enough fear, humiliation, power, loneliness, or desire into a human being, and behaviors change quickly. History has already proven this repeatedly. Civilized people become cruel faster than they imagine. Loyal people betray. Honest people lie. Kind people dehumanize others when social approval rewards it. Most individuals are not stable identities. They are adaptable psychological conditions. And once you realize this,
I
your
think
entire
people
perception of good and
need
evil
to
becomes less simplistic.
stop
You stop dividing humanity into heroes and
living
monsters.
life too
You begin seeing
seriously
wounded egos, unconscious fears, hidden desires, survival instincts, unresolved shame. You begin seeing people as
and start
psychologically
blowing up
fragmented,
things.
including yourself. That realization is uncomfortable because it destroys moral fantasy. The fantasy that you would always do the right thing. The fantasy that love automatically makes people pure. The fantasy that awareness alone makes someone immune to darkness. It doesn't. Awareness simply gives you a choice. Most people are controlled by patterns they never examine, but the person who confronts their shadow begins noticing those patterns in real time. The urge to manipulate, the urge to seek validation, the urge to punish rejection, the urge to maintain control through silence, guilt, or withdrawal. And for the first time, they understand something terrifying. Human beings are far less rational than they pretend to be. Most behavior is emotional survival wearing intellectual clothing. After that realization, the world starts feeling quieter. Not calmer, just quieter. You stop expecting people to become who they promised they would be. You stop being surprised.
I
when
promise,
affection turns into envy.
please.
When bends under pressure. When affection disappears the moment convenience disappears. And strangely, this begins making you more observant than emotional. You notice how desperately people try to escape themselves. Some do it through relationships, some through status, some through constant noise, attention, substances, achievements, social media, endless conversations, endless stimulation. Anything to avoid sitting alone long enough to hear their own mind clearly. Because silence forces confrontation, and confrontation is terrifying, especially when a person has built their entire
Real.
identity around external
Yeah.
validation. Carl Jung once said, "Until you
How
make the unconscious
crypix.
conscious,
Cry
it will shape your life,
pics. How
and
do
you
I
will
read
call
it?
it
Cry
fate."
or
Most people never
cry
realize how
or
much of their personality is automated. They think they fell in love. But often they repeated childhood attachment patterns. They think they have bad luck with people. But unconsciously they keep
do you
choosing
also
familiar
think that
emotional
people need
dynamics.
to stop
They
living
think
life too
everyone betrays
seriously
them.
and
Yet they
start
ignore
blowing up
every warning
things?
sign because fantasy feels safer than reality. Human beings don't just seek happiness, they seek familiarity, even when familiarity hurts them. That's why some people repeatedly return to toxic relationships, manipulative friendships, emotionally unavailable partners. The pain feels familiar, and familiarity creates psychological comfort. This is also why people resist change so violently. Change threatens identity. If someone has spent years being the victim, healing feels like losing themselves. If someone built their worth around being needed, boundaries feel terrifying. If someone survives through control, vulnerability feels unbearable. Most people are not protecting truth. They are protecting identity structures. And once you understand this, you stop taking certain behaviors personally. The disrespect, the projections, the manipulation, the emotional inconsistency. Much of it was never truly about you. You simply triggered unresolved parts of them they were trying desperately not to face. Sometimes your confidence reminds someone of their insecurity.
I
Sometimes
have
your
a
independence threatens
delay
someone's control.
set to high.
Sometimes your growth exposes another person's stagnation.
Oh shoot!
And instead of confronting
I have
themselves,
my
they punish
my
you
ex
psychologically.
on the
Not
browser.
always openly,
Dangerous.
Sometimes through subtle withdrawal,
Could get banned.
passive aggression, dismissive humor, withheld support, energy shifts, tiny emotional punishments almost impossible to explain to others. But you feel them, especially once your perception sharpens. Because awareness changes the way human interaction feels inside your body. You start sensing tension underneath politeness, competition underneath praise, resentment underneath friendliness. The social mask becomes transparent. And that transparency can become isolating if you're not careful. Because eventually a dangerous thought appears. If everyone is wearing masks, is genuine connection even real? That question sits in the mind like poison. Some people become cynical after this stage.
What's
cold,
genuine?
emotionally unreachable.
What's
They convince
genuine?
themselves that
What's
trust is
genuine?
weakness and detachment is
What?
intelligence.
What is he?
But
What
none
is this
believe
guy
something
talking
deeper.
about?
The goal was never to become naive nor cynical. It was to become conscious, to see human nature clearly without losing your own humanity in the process. And that balance is far rarer than people think, because once you truly see reality, you can never fully return to illusion
What is
again.
true reality? There is
Because
no
once
true
you truly
reality.
see reality, you can never fully return to illusion again. You start understanding why some conversations suddenly feel empty, why certain smiles feel rehearsed, why some people only love the parts of you that benefit them. And why deep down, almost everyone is fighting a
I
private
love the part of
psychological
me
war
that
they rarely
benefit
admit
me.
out loud. But maybe the darkest realization is this: the masks were never the problem.
Why is it
The
dark?
problem was believing they were permanent.
It's not
Human
really
beings are
dark.
conflicted creatures capable of love and manipulation, loyalty and betrayal, compassion and cruelty, sometimes within the same hour. And perhaps maturity begins the moment you stop searching for perfect people and start seeing people as they truly are. Fragmented, wounded, performing, afraid, including yourself. Because the day you stop romanticizing people is also the day you stop needing them to complete the fantasy inside your mind. You stop begging reality to become softer than it is. And
Please, I
strangely,
beg
that's when
you.
your vision becomes clear for the first time. Not optimistic, not pessimistic, just clear. And clarity changes the way you walk through the world. You become slower to trust, but deeper when you do. Harder to manipulate, but more honest with yourself.
This is
Less
why I
likely to
don't
lose
have a
attention,
barber I
less
trust.
hypnotized by charm. Less willing to abandon your intuition just to keep someone close.
Reality is
Because
too
now you
cruel.
understand something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The greatest danger was never that people could deceive you. It was that your loneliness, desire, hope, and projections could deceive you first. And once you understand that, human nature stops feeling shocking. It simply feels human. If this made you realize something uncomfortable about people or about yourself, leave a comment with the word aware.
Aware, aware. I'm commenting. Aware. Who's this Carl Jung guy? He's stealing my thought. I want to listen to audiobook. Audiobook. What is that? What is that book again? Don Quixote. Don Quixote. I saw it. I saw it. Oh, I watched this before. I think I fell asleep watching this.
Distinct voice.
Let's start over.
Let no one. Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes.
Yeah, but audiobook doesn't have
Narrated
that
by
piano
Silverleaf.
BGM.
Dedication of Part 1.
That's a
The
dedicated
Duke of
BGM.
Bayard, Marquis of Gabrelion, Count of Benalcazar and Benares, Viscount of the Pueblo de
Oh, sorry,
Alcazar,
my
Master
chat
of
is
the
not
Counts of
updated.
Capilla, Curiel and Burgios. In belief of the good reception and honours that your Excellency bestows on all sorts of books, as prince so inclined to favour good arts, chiefly those who by their nobleness do not submit to the service and bribery of the vulgar, I have determined bringing to light the ingenious gentleman Don Quixote of La Mancha, in shelter of your Excellency's glamorous name, to whom, with the obeisance
Do you
of
know
my
who I
love
am
for
yet?
such grandeur,
Of course I know.
pray to receive it agreeably under his protection, so that in this shadow, though deprived of that precious
You
ornament
are,
of wits and
you are
erudition
my
that clothe the
special.
works composed in the houses of those who know, it dares appear with assurance in the judgment of some who, trespassing the bounds of their own ignorance, use to condemn with more rigour and less justice the writings of others. It is my earnest hope that your Excellency's good counsel in regard to my honourable purpose will not disdain the littleness of so humble a service. Miguel de Cervantes. Chapter 1, which treats of the character and pursuits of the famous gentleman Don Quixote of La Mancha. In a village of La Mancha, the name of which I have no desire to call to mind, there lived not long since one of those gentlemen that keep a lance in the lance rack, an old buckler, a lean hack, and a greyhound for coursing. An ola of rather more beef than mutton, a salad on most nights, scraps on Saturdays, lentils on Fridays, and a pigeon or so extra on Sundays, made away with 3/4 of his income. The rest of it went in a doublet of fine cloth and velvet breeches, and shoes to match for holidays. While on weekdays he made a brave figure in his best homespun. He had in his house a housekeeper past 40, a niece under 20, and a lad for the field and marketplace, who used to saddle the hack as well as handle the bill hook.
What do you mean how? I
The
know.
age of this gentleman of
No,
ours
you
was
are
bordering on
B.
50. He was of a hardy habit, spare, gaunt-featured, a very early riser, and a great sportsman. They will have it his surname was Quesada, or Quesada, for here there is some difference of opinion among the authors who write on the subject, although from reasonable conjectures it seems plain
Are
that
you
he was
not
called
at office
Quesada.
right now?
This, however, is of but little importance to our tale. It will be enough not to stray a hair's breadth from the truth in the telling of it. You must know, then, that the above-named gentleman, whenever he was at leisure, which was mostly all the year round, gave himself up to reading books
Watching-
of chivalry
watching-
with such ardor and avidity,
Watching your
almost
unemployed
entirely
friend
neglected the pursuit of his field sports,
while
and
working
even the
is
management of his
indeed
property.
nice.
And to such a pitch did his eagerness and infatuation go that he sold many an acre of tillage land to buy books of chivalry to read, and brought home as many of them as he could get. But of all
You
there
are
were
my
none he liked so
special.
well as those of the famous Feliciano de Silva's composition, for their lucidity of style and complicated conceits were as pearls in his sight, particularly when his reading came upon courtships and cartels, where he often found passages like, "The reason of the unreason, with which my reason is afflicted, so weakens my reason, that with reason I murmur at your beauty." Or again, "The high heavens, that of your divinity divinely fortify you with the stars, render you deserving of the desert of your greatness deserves." Over conceits of this sort, the poor gentleman lost his wits, and used to lie awake striving to understand them and worm the meaning out of them. What Aristotle himself could not have made out or extracted had he come to life again for that special purpose. He was not at all easy about the wounds which Don Belianis gave and took, because it seemed to him that, great as were the surgeons who
Oh
had
my
cured
God.
him, he must have
My-
had his face and body covered all over with seams
My
and
latency is
scars.
low, but
He commended, however, the
I think
author's
it's
way of
quite
ending his book, with
something.
the promise of that interminable adventure. And many a time was he tempted to take up his pen and finish it properly, as is there proposed, which no doubt he would have done, and made a successful piece of work of it too, had
That's
not
nice.
greater and more absorbing thoughts prevented him. Many an argument did he have
What
with
day
the
is
curate,
today?
a
Monday.
learned man and a
Oh,
graduate
it's
of Seguenza,
Tuesday.
as to which had been the better knight, Palmerin of England or Amadis of Gaul. Master Nicholas, the village barber, however, used to say that neither of them came up to the Knight of Phoebus, and that if there was any that could compare with him, it was Dun Galior, the brother
No,
of Amadis of
I'm
Gaul, because
unemployed.
he had a
I like
spirit
I
that
like
was
to
equal
have
every occasion,
I like
and
my
was no
character
flippant knight,
background to
nor
be
promoting his
unemployed.
brother, while in the matter of valor, he
Don't
was
like
not a
I don't
whit
like
behind him.
being
In
employed.
short, he became so absorbed in his books that he spent
Not
his
even
nights
to
from
myself.
sunset to sunrise, and in his days from dawn to dark, poring over them. And what with little sleep and much reading, his brains got so dry that he lost his wits. His fancy grew full of what he used to
I
read
think the
about in his
BGM is too
books.
loud.
Enchantments,
Huh.
quarrels, battles,
It
challenges,
overpowered
wooings,
the
wooings,
the
loves,
audio
agonies,
book.
and all sorts of impossible nonsense. And it so possessed his mind that the whole fabric of invention and fancy he read of was true, that to him no history in the world had more reality in it. He used to say the Cid Roy Diaz was a very good knight, but that he was not to be compared with the Knight of the Burning Sword, who, with one back stroke, cut in half two fierce and monstrous giants. He thought more of Bernardo del Carpio because, at Roncesvalles, he slew Roland in spite of enchantments, availing himself of the artifice of Hercules when he strangled Antaeus, the son of Terra, in his arms. He approved highly of the
I cannot
giant
draw.
Morgante because,
Cannot
although
draw.
of the giant breed which is always arrogant and
Composition.
ill-conditioned, he alone was affable and well-bred. But above all, he admired Rinaldos of Montalban, especially when he saw him sallying forth from his castle and robbing everyone he met, and when beyond the seas he stole that image of Mahomet which, as his history says, was entirely of gold. To have a bout of kicking at that traitor of Ganelon, he would have given his housekeeper and his niece into the bargain. In short, his wits being quite gone, he hit upon the strangest notion that ever a madman in this world hit upon, and that was that he fancied it was right and requisite, as well as for the support of his own honour, as for the service of his country, that he should make a knight-errant of himself, roaming the world over in full armour and on horseback in quest of adventures, and putting in practice himself all that he had read of as being the usual practices of knight-errants, righting every kind of wrong and exposing himself to peril and danger from which, in the issue, he was to reap eternal renown and fame. Already the poor man saw himself crowned by the might of his arm Emperor of Trebizond at least, and so, led away by the intense enjoyment he found in these pleasant fancies, he set himself forthwith to put his scheme into execution. The first thing he did was to clean up some armor that had belonged to his great-grandfather, and that had been for ages lying forgotten in a corner, eaten with rust and covered with mildew.
No.
He scoured and polished it as best he could, but he perceived one great defect in it, that it had no closed helmet, nothing
Okay.
but a simple morion. This deficiency, however,
Don't
his
like it.
ingenuity supplied, for he contrived a kind of half-helmet of pasteboard which,
I need
fitted
to
onto the
peace
morion,
break.
looked like a whole one. It is true that, in order to see if it was strong and fit to stand a cut, he drew his
We
sword
do a
and gave
peace
it a couple
break
of
every
slashes,
5
the
minutes.
first of which undid in an instant what had taken him a week to do. The ease with which he had knocked it to pieces disconcerted him somewhat, and to guard against that danger he set to work again, fixing bars of iron on the inside until he was satisfied with its strength, and then, not caring to try any more experiments with it, he passed it and adopted it as a helmet of the most perfect construction. He next proceeded to inspect his hack, which, with more quartos than a reel and more blemishes than the steed of Gonela, that tantum pellis et ossa fuit, surpassed in his eyes the Bucephalus of Alexander or the Babika of the Cid. 4 days were spent in thinking what name to give him, because, as he said to himself, it was not right that a horse belonging to a knight so famous, and one with such merits of his own, should be without some distinctive name, and he strove to adapt it so as to indicate what he had been before belonging to a knight errant, and then what he then was. For it was only reasonable, his master taking a new character, he should take a new name, and that it should be a distinguished and full-sounding one, befitting the new order and calling he was about to follow. And so, after having composed, struck out, rejected, added to, unmade, and remade a multitude of names out of his memory and fancy, he decided upon calling him Rocinante, a name, to his thinking, lofty, sonorous, and significant of his condition as a hack before he became what he now was, the first and foremost of all the hacks in the world. Having got a name for his horse so much to his taste, he was anxious to get one for himself, and he was 8 days more pondering over this point, till at last he made up his mind to call himself Don Quixote, whence, as has been already said, the authors of this veracious history have inferred that his name must have been beyond a doubt Quisada and not Quesada, as others would have it. Recollecting, however, that the valiant Amadis was not content to call himself curtly Amadis, and nothing more, but added the name of his kingdom and country to make it famous, and called himself Amadis of Gaul, he, like a good knight, resolved to add on the name of his, and to style himself Don Quixote of La Mancha, whereby, he considered, he described accurately his origin and country, and did honor to it in taking his surname from it. So then, his armor being furbished, his morion turned into a helmet, his hack christened, and he himself confirmed, he came to the conclusion that nothing more was needed now but to look out for a lady to be in love with. For a knight errant without love was like a tree without leaves or fruit, or a body without a soul. As he said to himself, if, for my sins or by my good fortune, I come across some giant hereabouts, a common occurrence with knights errant, and overthrow him in one onslaught, or cleave him asunder to the waist, or, in short, vanquish and subdue him, will it not be well to have someone I may send him to as a present, that he may come in and fall on his knees before my sweet lady, and in a humble submissive voice say, I am the giant Caracaloyambro, lord of the island of Malindrania, vanquished in single combat by the never sufficiently extolled knight Don Quixote of La Mancha, who has commanded me to present myself before your grace, that your highness dispose of me at your pleasure. Oh, how our good gentleman enjoyed the delivery of this speech, especially when he had thought of someone to call his lady. There was, so the story goes, in a village near his own, a very good-looking farm girl, with whom he had been at one time in love, though, so far as is known, she never knew it nor gave a thought to the matter. Her name was
I'm
Aldonza
back
Lorenzo,
from,
and upon her he
from
thought
toilet.
to confer the title of Lady of his Thoughts, and after some search for a
City
name,
of
which should
Stars.
not be out of harmony with
From
her
the
own,
toilet and
should
just
suggest
refill my
and
drinks.
indicate that of a princess and great lady, he decided upon calling her Dulcinea
Oh,
del
it's raining
Toboso,
hard outside.
she being of El Toboso,
Been a while
a name to his
since
mind
last time it
unusual,
rained.
uncommon and significant.
Alright,
Like all those
I
he
don't
had already
I don't like
bestowed
this
upon
audio.
himself
It's
and
kinda,
things belonging to him.
it feels. Let's listen to something else. Something that I can relate. Shoot, it's been a while since last time it rains. I think the seasons is changing. I like listening to a man with nice voice. What is this? Romance is dead. No, I'm a romantic. Oh, oh shit. Why? Where's my...
I sometimes have moments of such despair.
Where's my
because
chat
my
have
nights
like
of fantasy are
auto-translation?
followed by hideous moments of sobering. We all have dreams, fantasies, places we run off to in the middle of the night or take solace in when life seems empty and meaningless. It is a common saying to chase your dreams or not to let go of your dreams. But
I
we
like
admit
the
dreaming
topic
is one
that
of the most dangerous
unsolicited
activities we can do, and
advice
that it's
talk about,
entirely
but
possible that dreams could slowly
I don't
destroy
quite
our
like his
lives.
voice.
Such is the message given by Dostoevsky's White Nights.
It's not
The novel
very...
is many things: a tragic love story, a diary
In
of a hopeless
what
romance,
is it
and
called?
a literary enshrinement of the modern concept of the friendzone. But amidst all the declarations of love, we find a stark warning of the danger of dwelling too long in the land of dreams, and a harsh reminder to embrace the real world with all its flaws, rather than escape permanently into fantasy. We
Right,
will learn
let's
why
get back to
romantic
drawing,
fiction can ruin your
shall
life,
we?
how narratives control our actions, and how we can fill our existence with so much fantasy that we forget to live altogether. But first,
I don't have
background.
any
Join us
idea
ahead
what
for
to
an
draw,
almost 200-year-old novel.
honestly.
White Nights follows a nameless narrator
So,
who meets a young woman
the
on a
rule
healing
is
stroll
to
through Petersburg.
draw
He is
5
desperately
minutes,
lonely and confesses to her that he has no
then
friends, preferring to bury
10
his head
minutes
in
of
literature and
browsing
dreams. The young
for
woman,
reference,
Nastenka, is waiting
and
for a
then
reply from her
an
lover,
hour
who's been
of
in Moscow
doom
for a year,
scrolling.
but has promised to return and possibly wed her. Over the 4 nights, the narrator falls in love with Nastenka, but she remains totally devoted to her potential husband. On the final night, Nastenka loses hope that her lover will ever return, and she agrees to try to love the narrator instead. But just at that moment, her lover steps onto the scene, and Nastenka abandons the narrator,
Stenka.
leaving him alone and despairing.
Stenka.
So, now we have that context. Let's get started. 1. The danger of narratives.
I
The
cannot,
narrator,
like,
the protagonist of White Nights,
listen
is a
to his...
fascinating figure. He
It's
keeps
too
meeting with
fast.
Nastenka night after night, hoping that she will fall in love with him, despite her continued assurances that their relationship can be no more
Not
than
when
a
I'm
devoted
drawing.
friendship. But then we must ask, why does he keep coming back? And I think the answer lies in his love of narrative. Humans are storytelling animals. We are constantly on the lookout for narratives we can slot ourselves into. We might picture ourselves as a great romantic hero
Is
at the
your
beginning of a
live stream
relationship. We
title
might seize on an
Chinese?
image of ourselves as a great scholar, seeking out
It's
ancient wisdom
Japanese.
between the pages of old philosophy books. I am always struck by the fact that successful people tend to tell their rise to greatness as the inevitable conclusion of some grander narrative about their life, rather than recognize that success is often a mixture of a lot of practice, some lucky breaks, and some unfair advantages. The stories we tell ourselves about the world can be wonderful enrichers of our lives, but they can also bring us misery. They can trap us in patterns of behavior
My YouTube recommendation is like depressed people. Why is there so many philosophical things on my recommendation, and the other side of it is a VTuber? It's like, whoa, this guy is depressed and lonely. Rachmaninoff, alchemy. In this world, everything is alchemy. We just ban the physics around us. Like, how do you explain that when you're hammering a metal towards the North Pole, it gains magnetism? It's magic.
One must imagine Sisyphus happy.
One must imagine Sisyphus
You've probably
happy.
seen it in the comment section of a meme video like this. But who is Sisyphus? Why did he get punished? And most importantly, why would he be happy rolling a boulder up a hill for all eternity? To answer all of these questions, we have to
It sounds
first
like
learn about the story of Sisyphus.
uh,
Sisyphus was
the way
first
he
king
talk
of Ephyra, now
is
known
like
as Corinth. Although
Davey
building failure
504.
that brought his nation
Davey 50.
he was also
I
an evil
forgot
dictator,
the last
just thinking of
digit.
himself. This highlighted when he killed visitors from other nations bearing gifts, and later marrying his own niece. This behavior, of course, got the attention of the gods. They were angered to hear all this. But what they didn't know was that Sisyphus had many tricks up his sleeve, coupled with extreme confidence. The conflict started when Zeus took the nymph, Aegina, flying away with her in the form of an eagle. Aegina's father, the river god Asopus, panicked and followed their trail all the way to Ephyra, where he encountered Sisyphus in his castle. This is where Sisyphus had his first plan set into motion. He made a deal in exchange of the god making a river flow through the city. The king told Asopus which way Zeus had taken his daughter. When Zeus heard of this, he was furious at the king. He asked Thanatos, the god of death, to trap Sisyphus in the underworld so it wouldn't cause any more trouble for Zeus. But Sisyphus, a clever man, had another trick up his sleeve. When being chained up, he
Wait,
asked
Sisyphus is smart.
"Could you show me how the chains work?" Thanatos, thinking nothing of it, showed Sisyphus how it worked. The king used this to instead bind Thanatos in the chains, later escaping from the underworld. With Thanatos not being able to do his job, no one on Earth could die, and the world plunged into chaos. This
He's
instead
punished
angered
for
the god of
being
war, Ares.
resourceful,
Since the battles were no longer
just
fun,
like real life.
he decided to free Thanatos. Sisyphus knew that it would soon all be over, but once again, he was one step ahead. Before dying, he asked his wife to throw his decaying body in the river Asopus earlier made. His soul eventually washed up in the river's Styx. When he was back with the dead, he approached Persephone, queen of the
I don't
dead,
like it.
and told her that his own wife hadn't given him a proper burial. Persephone granted him life, to go back to the living and punish his own wife.
Straw.
Of course,
It's
like every
straw.
single time, Sisyphus didn't
I
hold
love
his
drawing.
promise. Now he had twice escaped death by outsmarting the gods. They promised that there wouldn't be a third time. When Hermes, the messenger, dragged Sisyphus back to Hades, Zeus, and Persephone, he had thought that he was smarter than the gods. But the gods
See?
had the last laugh. Sisyphus' punishment
Sisyphus
was
is
an easy task to
smarty.
succeed. He was to roll up a massive boulder up a hill, but once he got close to the top, the boulder would roll all the way down, and all Sisyphus could do was to start over and over, forever. How come this story is the most popular one? Surely there are more gruesome punishments from the gods in these Greek stories. It's because this one has disturbing amounts of familiarity. Why would he be happy with his punishment? To answer that, let's break down the man behind the quote, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy," and the philosophy that led to this powerful tale. Albert Camus was a French philosopher born in Algeria in 1913. He was born into poverty and lost his father at a young age. Camus learned that life is a series of challenges and that we must face and
Smiling,
confront them.
start smiling.
Some other challenges he faced included tuberculosis, leading him to become acutely aware of mortality, which further led him on the path of existential crises.
You start smiling and you start
Growing up
having
in Algeria
glasses.
and then living through World War II in France, Albert grappled with inherent meaninglessness and randomness of the world around him. The sudden, irrational violence of war made the absurdity of the world ever more clear to Camus. So let us delve deeper into his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus. The idea of the absurd, which we mentioned before, is from Camus' perspective the conflict between our desire for meaning and the meaninglessness of the universe. So just as Sisyphus' task lacked any ultimate purpose or end, he argued that the same could be said for the human experience. But, rather than running away from the absurd, Camus tells us to confront it directly. We should revolt against our absurd condition by embracing life, creating our own meaning, and living authentically. There, we can find happiness. Sisyphus has no concept of a better day or an afterlife. His experiences are tied to the here and now. Sisyphus embraces the task and gives it his all.
One
Revolting
must
against
get off
nihilism
their
and
phone
despair.
and start.
This allows him to be the master of his
And
own
start
story. He is free, even in his
reading
punishment.
the chicken.
Sisyphus is the hero in this story, a tragic hero at that. Camus imagines Sisyphus smiling as he goes down the mountain to start his task over again.
I don't
Gives
think
us
breeding
in
the
it
chicken is
his
the
joy
right
and
term.
contentment,
Farming,
facing the
yeah.
struggles of
They
life,
call it farming,
even though at the end of the day it's meaningless. How
not
could we apply
farming.
this in our own
Farming is
lives?
doing
We
the
could
the
just
plan
deny the unreasonable world.
plan
This
thingy.
is the most common way to accept the world around
What
us.
do you
Everyone makes
call
up their own
what do you call
rules,
it?
their own goals. An example of this is religion, finding peace, knowing there's an afterlife, or monetary gain, finding peace, knowing you'll have financial stability when you retire. But Camus rejected this idea, thinking, one day we will be free. Instead, we should recognize that we're free at every moment, that heaven is on earth, rejecting the idea that one day we will understand the world, we will overcome death, or be happy one day. It's a lesson to remember. We must instead live our lives as much as possible, rather than as good as possible, because what is good is just another metric we humans made up. We don't chase after things for the heck of it, it's because of the experience of it. In the same way for Sisyphus, it's not about getting to the top, it's about the satisfaction of the task while you're doing it. Our lives are not
What's the
far from similar to Sisyphus'
satisfaction
punishment.
of
If we are striving for
rolling the
beauty, when will it be?
boulder
If we
over
are
and over
striving for
again?
happiness, when will we be happy enough?
Is it
Or
like
trust
drawing?
it is never enough.
I keep
It's
drawing
just
the
an
same
endless
poses
race
over and
to
over again.
perfection.
I'm not happy
That's
about it.
okay, as long as you live in the moment.
Whenever I do it, I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over again. Maybe one must imagine me happy. Okay. Yo, whenever I start listening to something and then the next auto start is just this piano. I know. I think it's it's because I keep playing this when when I'm trying to fall asleep, right? And they start playing the piano for some reason on the next autoplay.
Most people think believing in yourself means confidence, standing taller, speaking louder, looking fearless in front of other people. But that is not belief, that is performance. Real self-belief is much darker than people imagine, because the moment you truly begin trusting yourself, you stop needing permission from the world, and that quietly threatens everyone
Who's this
identity
Carl
depends
Jung
on
guy?
obedience.
He kept
Carl Jung once
talking
wrote
about
that
things.
The privilege of a lifetime is becoming who you truly
They
are.
make a
But what he
channel
didn't say
for this guy,
directly is that
Jung
this
Thoughts.
transformation almost
He
always
kept
begins
thinking
with isolation.
Carl
At
Jung.
first, nothing dramatic happens. You simply start noticing things. The
Carl
way
Jung
certain
is
people
Swiss
only like
Swiss
you when you are
psychiatrist.
uncertain.
Isn't this the
The way
guy
your
that
humor
tried
becomes
to?
arrogance the moment you stop self-deprecating. The way some friendships feel uncomfortable when you stop shrinking yourself to protect their ego. And slowly, a disturbing realization begins to form. Many people never loved the real you.
Yeah,
loved
they
the
get
version of you
cam
that
on my
doubted
walls.
itself.
They're
Because
listening
self-doubt
on me.
makes people predictable, controllable, safe. A person who believes in themselves becomes difficult to manipulate.
Okay, Jung.
That is why so many individuals unconsciously destroy their own confidence before the world even has the chance
I like
to
stuff
attack
like
it.
this.
They learn early that visibility creates danger.
Back in high
so they
school,
become
I was
smaller,
actually
quieter,
considering
easier to
taking
digest. The tragedy is
philosophy
that after years of doing
and
this, they no longer recognize the performance. They call it humility.
psychology.
But deep down, something feels wrong. Jung believed the human mind contains a shadow, the rejected parts of ourselves buried beneath social conditioning. Most people imagine the shadow as anger, jealousy, or violence. But sometimes the shadow is your ambition, your intelligence, your intensity, your potential, the parts of you that other people
shadows in my
subtly taught you
room.
to suppress. And the terrifying part is this. The longer you betray yourself, the more resentment begins leaking into your personality in invisible ways. You become exhausted around successful people, defensive around confident people, suspicious of anyone who lives freely. Not because you hate them, because they remind you of the version of yourself you abandoned long ago. People don't resent your weakness. They resent the possibility that you might outgrow them. And somewhere in the silence of your life, you already know exactly who becomes uncomfortable when you start changing. That awareness is where the transformation begins. Not with motivation, with recognition. There is a moment that happens quietly inside certain people. No applause, no visible breakthrough, no dramatic cinematic transformation, just a strange shift in perception. They begin realizing how much of their personality was constructed for survival. The agreeable tone, the constant explaining, the nervous laughter, the habit of apologizing before speaking, none of it was accidental. It was adaptation. Because somewhere in childhood,
Apologizing
adolescence, or
before speaking.
humiliation, they learned a dangerous psychological rule. Being fully yourself can cost you love. So the mind
No wonder
develops
I'm into
masks.
this content.
Jung called
This
the
kind of
persona
content,
the social self
I
designed
guess.
to function in society, and the persona is useful until you forget it is a mask.
You shouldn't listen to this
That is
kind
when
of
the performance
content.
consumes
They're
the
trying to
identity. You
manipulate
start
you.
monitoring every word before saying it. You analyze facial expressions like hidden threats. You become addicted to being understood while secretly hiding
Gotta stop
everything real about
romanticizing
yourself.
depressing stuff.
And eventually, something fractures internally. Because the human
It's
mind
fun
can
and
survive
games,
pain
but
far
it makes you
longer than it can
depressed.
survive self-betrayal. This is why some people feel strangely empty, even when life appears stable. The problem is not failure. The problem is disconnection. A person can survive rejection, but surviving years without authenticity slowly creates psychological numbness. And numb people become dangerous in subtle ways, not violent, just hollow. They stop pursuing
Hello.
what they actually want. They settle into routines that drain them. They remain in relationships where their spirit quietly dies in exchange for emotional safety. Then one day they wake up with a terrifying realization. They became someone they would never admire. Kindness without boundaries quietly teaches people how to use you. Most individuals discover this too late. At first, people praise your patience, your understanding nature, your willingness to tolerate disrespect peacefully.
I kept
But underneath
listening to
social
it.
politeness,
No,
human
I'm
beings instinctively test
I'm
limits,
commenting
not
on it.
consciously, not maliciously,
I'm
just naturally. And when you constantly sacrifice your own needs to maintain
They're
harmony,
actually
people
copying my
slowly
thought
stop
though.
seeing you as a person with
So it's
boundaries.
not a
They begin
surprise
seeing
when
you
I
as
heard it.
emotional infrastructure,
I
something
think of this
reliable,
before.
something
They're just
endlessly
copying
available,
me.
something that
Stop
exists
copying
for
me,
their
Carl
comfort.
Jung.
The disturbing truth is that excessive self-sacrifice rarely creates respect. It creates unconscious entitlement. This is why people are often shocked when the quiet person finally changes. The accommodating friend becomes distant. The patient partner becomes cold. The people pleaser suddenly disappears without explanation. But the transformation did not happen overnight. It was years of silent resentment reaching critical mass. Because deep down, every human being wants to feel real.
You gotta
And eventually,
leave
the soul begins
bad
punishing every
environment,
version of you
guys.
that was built only to survive other people. That punishment appears
Leave
as anxiety,
toxic
exhaustion,
friends,
overthinking,
toxic
depression without
environment.
visible cause.
But
The mind is complicated. But
in
sometimes
order to
suffering
know
is
what
simply the
toxic is,
psychological cost
you
of
gotta
abandoning
taste the
yourself for too long.
toxicity.
And the frightening part is this. Most people never reconnect with who they actually are. They die as their persona.
They're
The strange thing
unk.
about believing in yourself
True.
is that it rarely feels empowering in the beginning. It feels lonely.
Are we
Because once you
going to
stop
talk
needing
about
constant validation, entire social
finance and
dynamics begin
politics
shifting
as
around
well?
you. Conversations feel different.
That's my favorite
Friendships
topic.
reveal hidden conditions. People who once seemed supportive suddenly become distant the moment you stop asking for approval. At first, this confuses you. Then you begin noticing a pattern. Some people only feel comfortable around versions of you that remain uncertain. The insecure version, the dependent version, the version that constantly seeks reassurance before making decisions. But confidence changes the balance of power inside relationships. And power, even emotional power, makes people uncomfortable. Most relationships don't end when respect disappears. They end when awareness appears. That awareness is painful because it forces you to see something most people spend their lives avoiding. Human connection is often more conditional than it appears.
I can think
People say
of
they want
one on top of my
honesty,
head.
but what they usually want is
No.
emotional predictability.
Gotta leave that
They
person.
want the version of you they learned how to control. The moment you begin trusting your own instincts, the invisible contracts start breaking. You stop over-explaining yourself.
Disclaimer.
Defending every
Oh yeah, I
decision.
forgot to put
You
disclaimer.
stop begging
Not
people
life
to understand
advice.
your intentions. And strangely, this silence
Yeah, you gotta
irritates
leave
people
that
more than
person.
arguments ever did. Because self-belief creates emotional independence.
Disclaimer though.
And emotionally
Not life
independent
advice.
people are difficult to manipulate through guilt, shame, or fear of rejection. This is why Jung believed individuation, becoming your true self, is one of the most painful psychological processes a person can experience. You are not just discovering yourself. You are grieving every false identity that once kept you socially accepted. The obedient child, the endlessly agreeable friend, the version of yourself designed to avoid conflict at all costs. Each identity protected you once, but eventually
You cannot
protection
live
becomes
it.
imprisonment. There
Oh
comes a
my
point when
god!
remaining small hurts more than
Stockholm
being
syndrome.
judged, and that is usually
What's
the
stock?
exact moment a person begins changing for real, not externally. Internally,
Unlike
the shift becomes visible in tiny behaviors. They stop chasing people who pull away. They stop panicking when misunderstood. They stop interpreting rejection as proof of worthlessness. Instead, they begin observing human behavior with disturbing clarity.
can
They
you
notice how
you
often
gotta
people
spill the
project their
tea.
insecurities onto others, how frequently criticism is disguised envy, how many social rules exist only to keep individuals psychologically obedient. People who betray themselves long enough eventually forget what genuine desire even feels like. That is the true danger. Not
What is
failure,
genuine
not
desire?
rejection,
I
amnesia of
desire
yourself.
to
And
conquer the
once this
world. Is that
realization enters
my
your mind, you cannot
true
fully return
desire?
to ignorance. You begin seeing masks everywhere, at work, inside friendships, inside families, even inside yourself, especially inside yourself.
I think mask is
Because
good.
the hardest illusion to destroy is the one you created to survive. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid discomfort, but Jung understood
You know, when there is
something
a
darker. The parts of your personality that contain the most power are often
character
hidden beneath
who's
the emotions you
immortal,
avoid the most.
that people is the
Fear,
usually
anger,
portrayed as like the most
shame.
genuine
Not because these emotions are noble, but because they reveal
because
where your
they
false
have
self begins
lived
to crack.
many
A person
lives.
who never questions themselves remains psychologically asleep. They follow inherited beliefs, inherited fears, inherited limitations, and eventually they confuse familiarity with truth. That is why genuine self-belief feels
What's this
unsettling.
video name?
It forces
It's
confrontation with parts of yourself you spent years suppressing. Not all
it's
weakness
the
is
Carl
weakness.
Jung guy.
Sometimes
I'm
weakness
telling
is
you.
exhausted strength that was never allowed to express itself. Think about how many people secretly live divided lives. Externally calm, internally furious, externally social, internally disconnected, externally
I think
confident,
it's okay
internally
to have
terrified
that
nobody
many
would stay if
masks
the mask disappeared.
telling that it's
The
not a
human
mask,
mind
it's
becomes
yourself.
incredibly
You
skilled
just
at
adjust it
fragmentation.
to who
And over
you're
time,
talking
the
to.
performance becomes automatic.
You
You
don't talk the
smile
same
while
way
feeling
to your
empty. You say,
friends
"I'm fine," without hearing
compared to
yourself
your boss,
anymore.
right?
You continue routines that slowly destroy your spirit because uncertainty feels more frightening than misery. Then one day something small happens. A betrayal, a humiliation, a period of isolation. A moment where nobody comes to save you. And strangely, that becomes the beginning. Because pain has a brutal way of exposing illusions. Suddenly you see who disappears when you stop being useful. Who only contacts you when they need emotional comfort. Who becomes uncomfortable when you start valuing yourself more highly. And once seen, these patterns become impossible to unsee. People are often loyal to the role you play in their life, not the reality of who you are. That realization changes a person permanently, not into someone cruel, into someone observant.
See,
Someone
I'm
slower to
telling
trust
you, you
empty
need to
words,
start
someone less
listening to this
hypnotized
kind
by
of people
appearances,
talking
someone who
about
understands that
this.
human beings
They're
rarely reveal
trying to
themselves
manipulate
directly.
you.
They reveal themselves through patterns, repeated
Gotta think for
disrespect,
yourself.
subtle envy disguised as jokes, support that quietly disappears once you begin succeeding. The frightening thing is that many people already sense these dynamics intuitively. They just suppress the awareness because accepting it would require changing their entire life, and change threatens identity. Even painful identities become addictive when they are familiar enough. That is why people remain in toxic friendships for years, why they tolerate emotional manipulation, why they continuously betray their instincts to preserve social belonging, because isolation terrifies the human nervous system. But there is another kind of terror people rarely discuss, the terror of realizing you abandoned yourself just to avoid being abandoned by others. That realization arrives silently, usually late at night, usually during moments of stillness, usually when distractions stop working. And once
Usually
it
when
arrives, something
you
inside
are
you begins
having
refusing to
a
go
lack
back
of
to
sleep.
After that point, the world starts looking different, not visually, psychologically. You begin noticing how deeply fear controls human
Gotta
behavior.
do
Not dramatic fear, not life or
what
death fear. Smaller fears that quietly shape
was that
entire
called?
personalities.
Meditating.
The fear of rejection, the fear of criticism, the fear of being disliked, the fear of becoming too visible. Most people do not live according to truth.
The
They live
fear
according to
of
social consequences.
having people.
And once you recognize this, you start
The
understanding
fear of
why
talking to
authentic
people.
often make others uncomfortable.
I'm scared of talking to
Authenticity
people.
disrupts unconscious systems. A person who genuinely believes in themselves becomes harder to shame, harder to manipulate, harder to emotionally control through approval. That freedom unsettles people who still depend on external validation to feel valuable, especially because confidence exposes insecurity without saying a single word. A man uncertain about himself becomes irritated by another man's certainty. A person trapped in conformity secretly resents someone who lives freely. An insecure friend subtly discourages your growth while pretending to protect you, not always intentionally. Human beings are masters of unconscious behavior. Sometimes people sabotage others simply to preserve their own psychological balance, because your transformation forces them to confront their stagnation. And most individuals would rather criticize growth than question their own limitations. People often attack in others what they abandoned within themselves. That is why self-belief changes your social reality so dramatically. The more connected you become to yourself, the more certain relationships begin collapsing naturally. Not because you became arrogant, because your energy stops negotiating for acceptance. You stop laughing at disrespect to avoid tension. You stop
Scrolling
shrinking
for
your
a bit.
ambitions to make insecure people comfortable. You stop
Alright,
treating your intuition
let's-
like an enemy, and this creates
I don't want to
friction,
draw
because
full
many social
body.
structures depend on silent self-betrayal. Families,
This is kinda
friendships,
tiring.
workplaces, relationships.
I don't like many
Entire
characters, you
systems
know. I
quietly
don't
reward
have
compliance and punish
that
individuality.
many favorites.
Jung
And
understood
when
this deeply.
I
He
do,
believed most people never become
I usually
individuals
only
at all.
like that
They
part
become
of them.
reflections of
Like
collective
when I like
expectations.
someone's
Their
voice,
personality becomes assembled from fear, imitation, and
I like
social
only the
conditioning.
voice.
They choose
Sometimes
careers
I
they never
don't
wanted,
really
adopt opinions they never examined,
into the
remain loyal to
character
identities that secretly
that they're
suffocate them.
playing,
Then they spend years wondering why they
but
feel empty.
just the voice.
soul
So
knows
it's
when it
kind
is
of
living
hard drawing
dishonestly.
people
And eventually, psychological
because
symptoms
I don't
begin
really
appearing
have
like
that
warning
much
signals. Chronic
character
anxiety,
that I like.
emotional numbness,
Free Ren?
constant comparison.
I like
The
Free Ren
strange
because she
feeling that
has
your life does
a
not
long,
belong to you.
a long,
But here
long
is the
ear.
disturbing part. The mind will tolerate misery longer than uncertainty, which means many people stay trapped simply because freedom initially feels unfamiliar.
That's
Freedom
a
demands
long ear
responsibility.
for
No more blaming your
this.
parents. No more blaming society. No more blaming the people who
I'm gonna
underestimated
blame
you.
the
Because once you
government.
truly believe in yourself, excuses begin dying.
Stop
And that is
stop
where the real
blaming people.
confrontation
Start
begins.
blaming
Not
the
with
government.
world, with yourself, with every hidden fear that still whispers, what if I fail? What if they
How
reject me?
about Drago
What if I become
Avatar?
everything I was told not to become?
I
And
guess.
beneath all those fears sits the deepest one of all. What if I actually become who I was capable of being? That question changes everything, because
I
most
like
people
drawing
secretly fear
Goh
their potential
Avatar,
more than their limitations.
but not
Limitations are
because
familiar.
the
Potential is
character.
unpredictable.
Usually it's because
A limited
of
identity allows you to
the
explain your failures before they happen.
the
It protects
poses.
the ego from risk.
The
If you never fully
poses.
try, you never fully
Like-
confront what you are capable of becoming. So people create invisible prisons. I'm just not confident. I'm not
Usually I
talented
take
enough.
screenshot
I'm not the kind of person
for
who succeeds.
reference
At first, these sound like
or
observations,
with the
but
camera
repeated long
picture.
enough, they become identity. And identity is dangerous because the mind will defend it even when it causes suffering. A person who believes they are unworthy unconsciously gravitates toward disrespect. A person convinced they are weak avoids opportunities that require strength. A
Require
person
strength.
addicted to
I
approval
cannot do
slowly
this.
loses the ability to think
I
independently.
got disabilities.
Not because fate controls them, because perception does. Jung believed that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Most people never realize how much of their behavior is automatic. They think they are choosing, but often they are reacting to childhood conditioning, to humiliation, to fear,
True.
to invisible emotional wounds that still control their nervous system years later.
True. You
This
see,
is why two people come into the same room and
recently I have
experience
this
two
thought,
different
right?
realities. One sees opportunity,
When
the other
there
sees
is
judgment.
studies that
One
says
speaks freely, the other monitors every sentence.
uh
One believes
writing
rejection is
with
temporary,
pen
the
and
other
paper
interprets it
is
as
better
proof of
than
inadequacy.
typing it.
Reality bends around
But
identity, and once you understand this, you begin realizing
how
that
real is
believing in
that?
yourself is not optimism.
Because
It
the
is
research,
psychological warfare against years
the
of
studies
internal
like this
conditioning.
are usually
Every moment of
done
self-respect becomes an act
towards
of rebellion
the
against
subject of the
version you
research
built
are
through fear.
usually
That version
are
will not
people
disappear
who
quietly.
grew
It
up
fights
with
back.
pen and
It tells you to stay
paper.
invisible, to avoid
They
risk,
didn't grow
to
up
remain
with
acceptable, to silence
gadget
yourself before others
and
can reject you.
digital
And the terrifying part is how
phones,
convincing
note
that voice
taking like
sounds,
that.
because it has protected you for
So
years.
how true is that
The
studies if
protection
the
and
subject is
imprisonment
already
often wear the same
conditioned
face.
toward
The mind confuses safety with
the
survival,
pen
even
and
when the
paper,
environment no
right?
longer threatens you. So you continue carrying emotional armor long
Because
after the war
this
ended. Hypervigilance,
because the
overthinking, constant
advancement
self-monitoring.
of tech
You
is
call it
so
personality,
fast.
but
I
often
feel
it
like
is unresolved fear
many of
pretending to be
the
identity. And eventually, if a person remains trapped in this
many
state
of
long
the
enough,
thing
resentment
about
begins consuming them from the inside.
shit.
Not only
I
for
got a
others,
thing with
for
the
themselves.
with this guy talking in my background.
They know every moment they stayed silent when they should have spoken, every dream abandoned for social approval, every instinct ignored to maintain belonging. The human soul keeps records of these betrayals. That is why some people feel exhausted even when they have done nothing physically demanding. They are carrying years of suppressed identity. And one day, usually after enough disappointment, enough loneliness, enough internal conflict, something shifts. They stop asking, "Will people accept me?" and begin asking something far more dangerous. Can I respect myself if I continue living this way? That question marks the
What
beginning
if I
of
bomb?
psychological separation. Not separation from society, separation from illusion. Because once self-respect becomes more important than approval, human behavior reveals itself with terrifying clarity.
I don't like friends.
You start seeing how often people perform versions
I
of
don't like
themselves
talking to
secure
people.
acceptance. How many conversations are driven by status, insecurity, or hidden competition? How rarely people say what they actually mean. The social world begins feeling like theater. Everyone acting, everyone adjusting, everyone protecting an identity they hope will be loved. And beneath it all sits a quiet desperation. The
She wants
desperate
me
need
to be
feel significant.
loved.
This
She
is why
really,
people crave
really
validation so
does.
intensely.
Oh,
Attention
I
temporarily
say
silences the fear that they are invisible. Approval becomes
want
emotional
her
anesthesia.
love,
But
but all
anesthesia
I
is not
need
healing.
is
The relief never
some.
lasts. So people chase
So
more
in
attention,
the morning,
more
the
reassurance,
sun
more
will
external
rise,
proof that they
and I'll
matter.
wake
And in
up
the
and
process,
she
they
won't
slowly surrender
be.
authority over their own identity. A person who depends entirely on external validation becomes psychologically owned by public
If you
opinion.
draw eyes like this
That is
while
why criticism destroys
the
some
head
people
is
so
like
completely. It does not merely wound them,
having
it
this
destabilizes their entire
high
sense of
angle,
self. But
and
when
you
someone begins
draw
believing
the
in themselves at a
eyes like
deeper
this, it's
level,
usually the
criticism
eyes is
changes meaning.
looking up
It still hurts,
because
but it no longer defines
the arc
reality.
is pointing
Because
up. But
internally, something solid
if
has
they
finally
are
formed. Not
looking
ego,
down,
alignment. The difference is enormous.
it's usually more flat
Ego needs
or like
superiority.
this.
Alignment needs truth. Ego collapses when challenged. Alignment becomes clearer through challenge. And most people never experience this distinction because they spend their lives building personalities around appearances instead of authenticity. Jung believed the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents. Think about how many fears are inherited. Parents who abandon their dreams unconsciously teach caution. Broken people teach emotional avoidance. Insecure people teach conformity. Entire generations pass down survival mechanisms disguised as wisdom. Don't stand out too much. Be realistic. Stay safe. Don't think too highly of yourself. And slowly the individual spirit becomes domesticated, not destroyed completely, just contained, enough to function, enough to obey, enough to survive. But survival without meaning eventually creates psychological starvation. That starvation appears differently in different people. Some become chronically anxious. Some become emotionally numb. Some become addicted to distraction.
Some
become
other
cynical
got
because cynicism
chronically
feels
online.
safer than hope. But underneath all of it sits the same hidden wound. They never became themselves. People can sense when someone has abandoned their own spirit. There is a heaviness to them, a quiet bitterness, a constant need to criticize others who still possess freedom, ambition,
Okay.
or authenticity.
Let's
Because
5-minute
authenticity
breaks.
acts like a mirror, and mirrors become painful when someone has spent years avoiding their own reflection. The unsettling truth is that many people would rather attack your transformation than confront their own emptiness. Not because they hate you personally, because your growth exposes the life they settled for. And nothing provokes unconscious resentment faster than witnessing someone escape a psychological prison you still live inside. The moment you truly begin believing in yourself, you stop asking permission to exist. And for some people, that is unforgivable. So maybe believing in yourself was never about
What's
becoming
to be?
louder than everyone else. Maybe it was
To
about
be-
becoming
to
honest
be-
enough
to
to
be
stop abandoning yourself in
heroes.
silence. Because in the end, the most dangerous person in any room is not the loudest one. It is the person who no longer needs approval to recognize their own worth. The person who sees through manipulation, who
To
notices
be
hidden
myself.
intentions, who understands human nature without becoming consumed by hatred. Someone who finally stopped betraying themselves just to remain accepted.
I'm so
Most
glad I'm
people
free
will
to be
spend their
myself
entire
now.
lives wearing masks so tightly that they forget there was ever a real face underneath. But a few people eventually wake up.
I have
Once they do,
always been
they
real.
can never fully return to sleep. So tell me in the comments, what was the moment you realized you had been living for other people instead of yourself?
I think that the rain is over. Yeah, it's just rain now. Is it Pian
Most people
birthday?
think healing will make them happier. Carl Jung believed something far more disturbing. He believed healing first makes you dangerous. Not dangerous in the violent sense. Dangerous because you begin seeing things that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Patterns, contradictions, hidden motives behind ordinary behavior. You start
Yesterday?
noticing how often
Oh,
people confuse attachment
happy
with love,
birthday.
control with care, and obedience with connection. And once that perception changes, something uncomfortable happens.
Happy
You can no longer
birthday to
participate in
you.
certain
Happy
relationships the same way.
birthday
The
to
laughter
you.
still sounds normal. The
I
conversations still
saw
happen.
Han
The routines remain
to
untouched.
drawing
But underneath it, you begin
of
sensing
Pian.
invisible negotiations taking place inside almost every interaction. Who needs validation? Who needs control? Who fears abandonment? Who survives by manipulating perception? Suddenly, human behavior stops looking random. It starts looking predictable. Jung once wrote that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid confronting their own soul. And if you observe carefully, you begin realizing how true that really is.
I don't
Some
know.
people stay busy to avoid themselves, some stay desirable, some stay needed, some stay wounded. Because pain can become an identity, and identities do not disappear quietly. That is why healing often creates conflict long before it creates peace. The moment you stop tolerating what once felt normal, people begin reacting to you differently.
What is this video?
Not because you became cruel, but because you became harder to control unconsciously.
They always talk about the same things over and over. But I like the voice of the narrator. Maybe a bot. Is it really a person voice or AI voice? Yeah, right. They always talk about the same things over and over. They are trying to condition you. Oh, I see, I can't stop feeling I want love, but all I'm feeling is not enough. So in the sun will rise and I'll wake up and she'll be mine. I can't stop feeling I want her love, but all I'm dreaming is not it. So in the morning the sun will rise and I'll wake up and she won't be mine. I want her to, she want me to be loved. Will I get the copyright if I play the song? Maybe I should draw pian. P P P P P.
I know you know
I walk to the street, walking around,
hard on my sleeve, so you say you love me,
but not the way I need. Things aren't supposed to, I want to be.
I've known you so long.
But maybe to know all of the joys you kiss and tell.
I'll never be them. See, I'm just a good friend. Though
It's not too real,
I don't want this to end. Oh, oh, she wants me to be loved.
Oh, oh, she really, really does. Oh, I can't stop feeling I want her love, but all I'm dreaming is not enough. The sun will rise and I'll wake up and she won't be. Oh, oh, she really, really does. All of the things aren't be different for me. Oh, oh. Oh, I can't stop feeling I want her love, but all I'm dreaming is not enough. So in the morning the sun will rise and I'll wake up and she won't be. Maybe. Oh. It's 3:10. I can't stop feeling I want her love. So in the morning the sun will rise and I'll wake up and she won't be. But all my dreaming is not enough. So in the morning the sun will rise and I'll wake up and she won't be. She want me to be loved. She really, really does. She really, really does. Alright. Enough. Enough music. Give me something depressing to think about again. Alright. Why is it so slow? My internet. Come on. Is it my internet or my laptop? Could be both. But I doubt it's the internet. I just upgraded it. I even have LAN connected now. Upgraded from Wi-Fi. I've been using for years. Finally set up a LAN. Now I got full connection, full speed.
Tell me once again, I could have been anyone else before you made the choice for me. My feet
I think it's my laptop that's slow.
we walked in the dark.
Come on. See, I start clicking things I didn't mean. Oh my god. God, please, laptop, please Windows, you're taking too much RAM for this bullshit of a cache. No, it's actually my CPU that takes. I have like 100% usage of CPU. Oh my god. I think it's because I have two browsers because I'm kind of scared opening the other browser on the browser that I show on stream. Might show something that I don't want to show. Let's see this. How did alchemy work? Let's make a philosopher's stone. You were bopping. Too bad. No more music for you. Time to listen to this bald guy with beard.
They transmuted lead into gold, firing lead atoms at one another and just so slightly missing. These interactions created a high energy pulse, and that pulse caused 3 protons to be ejected from some of the lead atoms, thus creating gold. Of course, the energy required was very
Making
costly.
gold?
They only produced about 29 trillionths of a gram of gold, and it vanished in a fraction of a second.
Yeah,
But
they
hey,
can make gold, right? Artificially, but
of course,
the energy used to make gold compared to the gold that it produces is not beneficial. Just like how they
But given that chemical transmutation is now
make
known to
a
be impossible,
nuclear reaction
what
of a
exactly is
sun,
going on in the labs
it's
and
not enough to make
crucibles of those hermetically
the
sealed
energy
vessels?
that's used is not
Let's
enough
explore the
to,
possibilities and discover how real historical alchemy
yeah.
might have worked. Make sure to subscribe here to Esoterica for weekly explorations of topics.
I feel like
in
the
esoteric
eyes is
history.
a bit
And if
too
you'd
close
like
to each
support
other.
the work of providing evidence-backed, free, and accessible content on topics like these, I'd hope you consider checking out my Patreon or some of the cool merch we have on the channel, some of which is alchemy themed. If you're new to the study of esotericism and you want to get the lay of the land with reliable information,
Let's add
make
a
sure to check
beauty
out my
mark.
study
You know,
guide.
beauty
And if you're
mark.
interested in
It's this
historical books, actual
or this
historical books on topics in
or
the
this.
occult and the
It's a
mystical,
beauty mark.
check
They
out our
say.
bookstore over at Esoterica Rare Occult Books. You can find all of those links over in the
You know, I
description of
always
the upcoming book.
draw hair like
But
this.
now let's
See?
step back into
The
the
bangs
labs
is
of
like
those
always like
ancient
this.
alchemists and discover
The
what might have been
the
going on
kami.
in these tales
Yeah.
of transmutation.
I think let's try with different bangs. I know.
Esoterica, where we
I
explore
want
the
to make a
arcane
new
world of history,
OC with
philosophy,
a lot of
religion.
a forehead area. Oh shit.
One of the most ancient goals of alchemy was the transformation of one substance, specifically a base metal like lead or tin, into a noble substance, a metal like silver or gold. And this began all the way back at the origin of alchemy with Greco-Egyptian alchemists who were able to carefully control the tinging or coloring of metals, giving them a silver, gold, red, or other color luster. The reasoning went that if they could transform the surface of these metals, then there must be some process by which they could transform the metal all the way through, transmutation of one metal to another. And some of our
Transmutation.
earliest alchemical recipes describe such practical and theoretical processes. Now, I've done a whole video on Greco-Egyptian alchemy, and along with the most famous of those alchemists, Zosimos of Panopolis, if you want to check that out. But the most important theoretical shift in alchemical history happened in the Abbasid Caliphate in Iraq, where the school of Jabir ibn Hayyan developed what is called the mercury-sulfur theory of the metals. Building on Aristotle's more ancient theory that the metals were formed by gaseous exhalations deep
What
within
did
the earth,
Aristotle
these
do?
ingenious Arabic alchemists argued that those exhalations were
I thought
actually
he's
composed of
I
two
thought he's
specific
only spitting
substances,
words.
mercury and sulfur, the ratio of which when fused became the various metals as we know them. Thus, it should be theoretically possible, they reasoned, to decompose any metal into their basic sulfur and mercury components, and by art or artifice recompose them into other metals. And this theory also has straightforward empirical confirmation as well. The most common form of lead to occur in nature is the mineral galena, which I have some right here, or lead sulfide. But to extract the elemental lead, one need only basically roast that galena in a common hearth fire. What would have been obvious to the experimental alchemist would have been the smell. As it heats up, it gives off the telltale odor of sulfur. Galena is sulfide, lead sulfide after all, with the liquid lead looking very much like mercury before being quenched in water and thus fixed, to use the alchemical language, as lead. And keep in mind, galena, that's going to matter a lot in just a moment. But despite developing a range of new technologies and techniques, including a range of furnaces, labware, and chemical processes such as sublimation and distillation, along with a range of powerful novel chemicals such as acids, the alchemists were never able to produce more gold or silver than originally went into their crucibles.
See, I'm telling you.
The law of conservation.
I know this.
They didn't. And many honest alchemists, such as the occultist Cornelius Agrippa, actually admitted as much. They could never seem to produce more gold and silver than went into the hermetically sealed crucibles. And the reason for this is just now known. Chemical transmutation is simply impossible. Now, I know what some of you are thinking out there. That's because they were never trying to transform metals at all. Alchemy was always really about spiritual or inner psychological transformation. And while this is admittedly a very lovely idea and a wonderful modern interpretation of alchemy, it's not at all historically accurate. The concept of spiritual or psychological alchemy, as most people know it, was primarily developed in the 19th and 20th centuries by occultists like Mary Ann Atwood or the psychoanalyst and genius Carl Jung. Now, if you're interested in the history of actual spiritual alchemy, especially its European origins among late 17th century mystical heterodox Protestants, check out my ongoing series on just that topic. But suffice to say, historical alchemy
I don't have a Goch oven.
with actually transforming metals.
If I have a Goch oven, I think my laptop would explode.
Solvents, including the most famous solvent of all, the alkahest, the universal solvent, which had the attendant problem of, if it's a universal solvent, what exactly do you store it in? But despite the impossibility of chemical transmutation, dozens of such transmutation tales abound in alchemical literature. Some texts even provide detailed to a point instructions for the production of the famed Philosopher's Stone, which is said to have the power to do that very
I get
transmutation.
quiet when
And I
there's
say
no
detailed
one
up to a point
else
because even the
around.
most sober alchemical
Being
texts which
you at
describe
in
alchemical
silence,
procedures,
don't
some of which, by
you
the way,
go
aren't so clear that
holding me
modern
down,
forensic chemists like the pioneering scholars Lindley
running
and
to me.
Principe have actually recreated historical alchemical procedures in modern labs.
But when
Even
I
those most
come back
detailed
next to
protocols
you, a
inevitably become
Cupid
as vague
will
as they
write
are
you.
grandiose, such that basically there's kind of a bit of hand waving and a miracle happens, and gold or silver is seemingly appearing in the crucible and then is multiplied in volume. Now, if you're interested in the topic of the Philosopher's Stone itself, you can also, again, check out my deep dive on that topic as well, along with a pretty big playlist I have on topics in alchemy here on the channel. But what gives? If chemical transmutation is in fact impossible, and it is, and yet we have not only transmutation tales, but literal surviving artifacts said to have been made of alchemical gold, what was actually going on in the labs and the crucibles of the alchemists? And speaking of alchemical crucibles, this is an alchemical crucible sitting here on the set of Esoterica.
Some people
Part of that
live
might be to
for
unravel
the
that mystery, might be actually getting these
Some
17th century
people live
alchemical
just
Hessian
to play the
crucibles
game.
tested. These are in fact known as, I said,
Some
Hessian
people
crucibles, and they're
think
nested
that the
together. And I'm hoping to get this one tested to see what's actually in here and what was the alchemist doing when they were working on this.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Should I be touching this and putting it so
Veritasium.
Veritasium. Put this over
Very,
here.
very,
But awaiting that, let's explore some
Veritasium.
possibilities behind.
Wait. Some people think some people live just to play the game. Some people think that the physical things divine what's within. No fun. Wait. Piss. Bathroom break. Ooh, I'm back. いつでも I love you 君の手かキスみ忘れられないから僕の大事なメモリーどら焼きな接触になれないならば裏なくし思い通り
Understand just how good.
Yes. How do people born with
I don't think
sexy
people
voice?
truly understand just how good Da Vinci was. His understanding of anatomy was miles beyond any medical experts of his day. He made inventions.
I like when
that were
people have
centuries
sexy
ahead of his time,
voice,
and he remains the most
both
famous
man
artist
or
in the world
woman.
over 500 years after his death. So let's deconstruct one of the most incredible minds humanity has ever produced, starting off with the way Da Vinci
I have
approached
a
art like a science.
addiction. No, not addiction.
To paint
I have
the world,
a
Da Vinci sought to understand it. He spent
no.
pages
It's not a
and pages of
fetish.
books
It's not a
making
fetish.
detailed studies on life
But I
theory,
think I like
geology,
when
botany, and of
people
course,
have
since he wanted to paint
sexy
human body to
voices.
utter perfection, he had to study anatomy like a maniac. So in 1510, through some connections that Da Vinci had in the medical world, he was able to gain access to
My
human
favorite
bodies
person
for
often have
anatomical
sexy
study. Now, in
voices.
the years gone by, Da Vinci had conducted a lot of animal dissections, but he
Is
also
that's
dabbled
too much
lightly in
information.
human dissections even before this. But now, since he could do it kind of legally through his medical connections, in the next few years, Da Vinci carried out dozens of dissections, studying the nerves, the skeleton, the organs,
Me
studying how
is
muscles
if I have sexy voices.
hypothesizing functions of different organs, especially like the heart, breaking body parts down into their muscular and skeletal forms to understand them in and out, and just in general creating really detailed and accurate drawings and sketches on his findings. This entire period gave him a really deep insights into how the human body worked, and it was actually accurate because back in these days,
You have
anatomical knowledge was very questionable. It was heavily influenced by this Greek physician from the 2nd century.
yeah.
named
You have
Galen,
a soft
whose
voice.
anatomical
Yeah.
depictions were interesting to say the least. But this is the kind
People
of
also says me have soft voices as well.
Professors ever questioned Galen's teachings because it was so ingrained in them that Galen is correct.
That when they did dissections in school, the professor would just read a commentary on Galen, and an assistant would point things out as a surgeon chopped up the body. The professor never even looked inside.
Now we will remove the heart. Whatever you're looking at is the heart.
Hello.
I love him too, but aren't you going to check if Galen is right?
As if he'd ever be wrong. He's Galen.
So since Da Vinci didn't have this bias, since he wasn't like in the medical world or something like
I
that,
wonder what
he
Da
was able
Vinci
to
sounds like.
see human anatomy for what it really was. It's crazy how Da Vinci's private notebooks were more accurate than medical school textbooks and stuff. That's kind of funny. It wasn't just anatomy though that Da Vinci studied with this level of thoroughness. He did this with everything that he felt he needed to understand to make his art as accurate to reality as possible. And the observations that he would make as he went on studying the world would lead him to ideas that he would just write down in his private notebooks that were quite literally centuries ahead of their time. For example, he studied mountains and rock formations and things like these, and he realized that these structures had to
You guys have
form
nothing to
in
do.
layers
Get
very
out.
slowly over time. Now, you probably learned that kind of thing in high
Start
school,
working.
but back then, it was not common knowledge. the little fossils that he'd occasionally find as he was walking around. I mean, back then, people used to think that fossils were remains of mythological creatures like dragons and stuff like that. But Da Vinci was one of the first to realize that fossils are just creatures that died a very long
And a
time ago.
jar.
Since they were like these little seashell-looking things, those are pretty common. He realized that the area he was in had to have been the seafloor. At
Hello,
some point
Nama.
in the past.
We've been
The
talking
combination of
about
this led him to reason
sexy
that Earth
voices.
was significantly older than what it
This
was
is
said
kind
to
of
be
wrong.
church fathers and stuff like that, which is an idea that would be formalized in the 1800s. His studies on birds and how they flew led him to design flying objects like this parachute and this helicopter looking thing, inventions that obviously come centuries later, and his versions, if designed today, actually work. And that's the thing with Da Vinci. It wasn't just, ooh, the human body looks this way, so I'll draw it this way, or mountains look this way, so I'm going to draw them this way. It was, no, why do mountains and rocks form in this manner? Why do branches and leaves form in very specific patterns? Why does light and shadow interact in these particular ways? Because he probably figured that if
No,
he
you
could
will
understand
will
the why,
listen
he
to
could utilize that concept. He could then paint
alchemists
the way he wanted
and
and have it still be accurate to reality. And his
philosophy
approach to this
instead.
whole thing ended up paying off. I mean, geologists today recognize that the complex rocky backgrounds and formations that we see in a lot of Da Vinci's work are accurate representations of what these things would look like if they were actually real places. So, that's kind of cool. So when it comes to the actual painting, Da Vinci liked to try out new methods and techniques of communicating his artistic vision, which is obviously a good thing. But sometimes this
Who's modern day Da Vinci?
experiment with
Da
paint
Vinci.
didn't really fully
Isn't Da
work out.
Vinci really smart, good at drawing?
In 1504,
really
Da Vinci
good
was commissioned
engineer?
to paint a massive wall
I think
of
if
the town
if
hall.
Da
This commission
Vinci
was
lived
very
in
inspired
modern
because
world, he would be a
France had a very
game dev
vibrant art culture, and
making
sometimes they liked
games
to pit
like
artists
Toby
against
Fox.
each other to see, who would win. And at this point in time, there were two artists who were at the top of the food chain, so to speak. Da Vinci, who at this point was gaining fame in these circles because, his Last Supper kind of went viral back then. But he had a little bit of competition. Some guy who just finished creating one of the grandest sculptures in all of history.
Da Vinci just had
And
too
the two
much
artists
time,
were
bro.
commissioned to do war scenes, battle scenes on opposite end walls of the town hall. And to add a bit of fuel to the fire, these two guys absolutely despised each other. Like, they would throw verbal insults at each other all the time. There's even reports that they once got into a physical fight in the middle of the street. There was a lot of animosity here. So each equipped with a design
Two grown-ass
to
men
defeat the
fighting
other.
on the street.
They both got to work creating the grand sketches and plans and drafts for this final work. And
Probably.
Florence was excited, like, geez, bro, Da Vinci or Michelangelo.
Look at
who's
this.
gonna come
This
out
is
on
what
top?
you call a tangent.
Ugh, fortunately,
Everyone, this is
sometimes
what you call a
became clear
tangent.
that this
And
plan
it
would never
happens
come to
sometimes.
fruition, because our boy Da Vinci
And
had
to
a
fix
problem.
this, we just
See,
need to move
typically
these
works
things.
like these that are done on these massive sections of walls are
Oops.
done in fresco.
Control
Fresco is a
T,
method of painting that
moved it.
involves applying
No more
fresco
tangent.
to the wall,
Yay.
transferring your drawing onto that, and then painting directly on that wet plaster, and essentially allowing the paint to dry in with the plaster and become part of the wall. Essentially, it's a method of painting that could be trusted to create works that would last for a very long time. It was the standard, right? But Da Vinci didn't like this. This is because he was a slow artist, right? He liked to take his time. He liked to think about things and make changes to
Oh,
his
he's
work
a
as
slow
he went
artist. I
along.
need to
And
be
this isn't
slow
something
as
you can do in
well.
fresco, because you have to be quick. You have to paint before the whole thing dries in. So you have to kind of work in little sections if you're doing a massive wall, for example. And if you want to go back and change something, well,
Yo,
good luck,
this
'cause
this
it's
narrator
very
is
difficult to
human,
do
not
in fresco.
AI. Look at him.
So since
He
it's
got
not
that
way back
nose,
in Da Vinci, he decided
what do you
to
call?
try something that was different,
The
which was
nose
encaustics.
thingy.
Encaustics is a method of
Like-
painting that involves mixing the pigment with hot molten wax, using that as your paint, and then apply it to the wall. It's a method of painting that was mainly done by the ancient Egyptians and had created work that lasted for thousands of years now. So it can be a really reliable method of painting. But when Da Vinci tried it out, it didn't really work. Now, he probably made the mixture way too hot because, the paints ended up dripping down and melting and just ruining the entire thing. So he kind of just abandoned it. And when Michelangelo heard about this, he abandoned his work too. And he ended up eventually being called to Rome by the Pope. So talk about anticlimactic, bro. All we have today are some surviving studies that were done by younger artists of the time. So you can see Da Vinci planned to do a gruesome scene of those soldiers just in the middle of battle, just duking it out on horseback. Even the horses are getting in on the action. It's just this tangle of violence. And Michelangelo planned to depict the moment when, the soldiers are just bathing in a river, just relaxing, and then
What is
the
this
enemy attacks. So everyone
video
is scrambling
talking
to
about?
get ready, getting prepared to go and fight. So Michelangelo's scene is
Da
really
Vinci.
chaotic. We also have some
Da
preparatory
Vinci
studies that
is
were
a
done,
lunatic.
sketches that were done by the
You need
artists
to be a
themselves.
lunatic
And
to
so
be an
it's really cool
artist, to
take
be
a look
honest.
an artist's sketches to their final work. That's kind of cool. It would have been really incredible to see what the final results of this battle would have been. But
I said
alas,
this once before.
instead of just painting in fresco, which is the established proper method, reliable method, he ended up trying to do something different to the norm.
But I
trying to
forgot what I'm
find
saying.
ways to adapt the entire situation to him and his own personal workflow. And even though it didn't work out this time, I find that to be a really admirable trait to have, because sometimes his proclivity
Right, I
to
just
try
remember now.
ways of
For an
painting that he
artist,
wanted to do ended up really
usually there is
really
4
hitting off.
archetypes.
Take this, right? Da Vinci in his art wanted to
First
capture
one is
reality
the
as he saw it, and this led him to pretty much invent
lunatic
an entirely new mode of painting.
who acts like a lunatic.
Sfumato. Works in sfumato are
The second
characterized
one
by
is
really soft
a lunatic
shades,
who
light
acts like
scenes,
a normal
colors, and
person.
tones. Da Vinci himself writes, light
There is
shades
also
blend
a normal
without lines
person
or
who acts
borders
like a
in the
lunatic.
manner of smoke. To really understand
And
sfumato, here's a common comparison.
a
On the left, you have
normal
the head done
person
by the early
who
Renaissance
try
master
to
Botticelli. And as you can
do
see,
art.
there's a bunch of line work in the eyes, the nose, the jaw. a bit
They
of
usually
hair,
become
edges
lunatic
and
after a
curves.
while.
Whereas Da Vinci's work features none of that, which makes sense because reality doesn't have any outlines or line work. Now, this is not me bashing the homie Botticelli. I'm just making a point. Now, sfumato is really, really difficult. To achieve the softness that we see in Da Vinci's work, he had to apply multiple, extremely thin layers to obscure the edges, layers that are just few microns thick, and he'd blend everything with such precision that even today under a microscope we can't make out the brushwork in a lot of Da Vinci's work, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. So over time, Da Vinci developed his sfumato, painting in a mode that wasn't really common at the time. I mean, he was literally the guy who invented it. And so this willingness of his to go against the established, the painting status quo, so to speak, whether it succeeded with sfumato or whether it failed with encaustics, I think is
Oh no,
super
I'm running out of water.
Because for Da Vinci, the reason he was so fixated on not painting in fresco, the reason he was so fixated on studying anatomy like a madman, studying geology and plants like a madman, is because
I love
more than
drawing.
anything,
I
he
love
desired
drawing this.
anything else. And it's the singular thing that eluded him for
It
the rest
feels
of his
alive.
life. Today we only have a handful, less than 15 or 20 kind of finished paintings that we can say with confidence are Leonardo's, which when compared to other masters of this era really isn't that many. And this is majorly because Da Vinci's process was extremely slow, like we've said before. In The Last Supper, for example, it took him about 3 or 4 years to complete this work, and he wasn't working continuously. He would sometimes spend days just sat there thinking about where to apply the next brushstroke.
I'm coding, but I
want
wanna listen to Uncle Simmer in the background. Let's go.
Was getting impatient, and he started nagging Leonardo to
What
actually
are you
do
coding, by the
instead
way?
of just sitting around him
Mm.
thinking. Ugh. Da Vinci found this guy annoying, but so convenient, because he could always just use this annoying guy for the head of Judas. Perfect. Da Vinci's slowness in his working process and his obsession with the tiniest details on the next brushstroke really speak to just how much of a perfectionist he was, even with something like the Mona Lisa. Now, I could make an entire video on just the Mona Lisa. I see a lot of people saying that it's overrated and things of that nature, which, I mean, I get it.
Mona Lisa? What do you think of Mona Lisa? What do I think of Mona Lisa?
Technically, an unfinished portrait. It was commissioned in the early 1500s, but Da Vinci ended up carrying it around with him for the rest of his life, making changes to it here and there over the years. He probably
Vinci
was
is-
never satisfied with how it turned out.
Da
At the age of
Vinci
67,
is
in
rich.
France, in this very house,
He's
in fact,
an
in this
engineer.
very room, likely due to a stroke.
I don't think
Leonardo
he
da Vinci
earned money
died
from doing
in the
art.
arms of the King of France, who was his friend and patron. Da Vinci spent his final years living in France. On his deathbed, he uttered his final
Some
words, which
robotic stuff.
encapsulates
Wow.
who he is as a person so perfectly. I have offended
You should
God in
do
my
a
heart,
video of
but
the
my heart
robots
did not
fighting.
reach the quality that it should have. Old masters were just beyond insanity. Literally every aspect of their paintings were calibrated to perfection. Thing is though, with these monsters, is that they started off as absolute beginners. That is, before going through a specific art routine that provenly and consistently turned noobs into masters. And so in this video we'll explore their structured art plan, how they built up their artistic creativity, and how they sped up their overall progress, as well as how you and I can low-key just copy a bunch of this to genuinely improve our art.
Did you know the capabilities of forklift robots? They are fighting it in those YouTube I saw. The robot. What's the series called? Where the robot fights. Just need some aggressive things.
Drawing progression system. Now in phase 1, new students will be given master drawings of various body parts to use as their reference, and they were tasked with drawing these over and over again until they got comfortable with it. After all, as they say, you know,
I think the future is bright. You need to learn robotics. Have you seen the videos where like the Chinese robot fighting, and there is Donnie Yen from Ip Man watching?
To help their students.
So cool. I like how the movement of the robot is very good, very fluid.
Because using these kind of X and Y axes on the reference and comparing the lines and shapes and their angles and their relationships to each other help to guide their drawings to be just significantly more accurate. Then comes phase 2 of their path to mastering all of drawing. So
oh wait, I see now.
Their students' understanding.
Let's make her
like before,
do the sleeve.
Right, these kind of mini sculptures of the head and of different body parts. And the reason this was better than jumping straight to studying from life was because these casts had really smooth surfaces. There was no distracting skin wrinkles or skin pores or anything like that, and it was really easy to see how the light affected the forms. Now, to help their students get better at like seeing values, their masters recommend to them to either squint their eyes or like blur their vision. Apparently only like 50% of people can blur their vision, so if you can't do that, then like, you know, sucks to suck, right? But if you do something like that, it makes it a lot easier.
What do we
make out the different light and shadow masses a lot more accurately, which helped in training their artistic eye, learning how to separate light and shadow, as well as eventually learning how to link them with, you know, midtones and everything. And thus came the third and final and most difficult studying live models. Now this is obviously a lot harder since they're just naturally more detailed, more variations and tones and everything, and so making these artistic decisions, learning what details to leave out and which ones to leave in, was one of the main challenges that students faced here. And so to get a little bit better at this, their masters recommended them to kind of, instead of starting off by trying to make fully finished figure drawings, they'd recommend to instead just focus on getting the basic gesture of the model down, getting some basic proportions in, getting some basic light and shadow messes in, and kind of just focusing on getting that right before slowly moving up towards making a fully finished drawing. So they did this, and when the master eventually decided that the students were comfortable enough with this phase, they finally were allowed to graduate to painting. Now we will go into a bit more detail on how long they spent each phase. That's all.
Even line follower is addicting to watch. What do you mean line follower?
Easy because, you know, when
I
they
don't get it.
They had a good grasp on their foundations on like values and precision and like observation skills and all that jazz. And so literally at this point, the only thing they would be doing in order to get a grip on like, you know, color and composition and brushwork and everything else that comes with painting, the main thing they'd be doing was the esquisse paint, which literally just translates to the painted sketch, right? They'd be going to like the museum, like the Louvre or something, and doing these loose studies.
You know how people usually
of the masterworks there to get a grip on
do flip the canvas very often. I don't do this. I need to flip my canvas more often.
Now, this strict adherence
see,
to formal
you see that
standards
hair is so big. It's like Goku. She's like got the Goku hair, and you just need to reduce this.
Now, one of the greatest masters of the day once said, if you're not
Even the
skilled
face
enough
is a
to
bit
stop a
deformed.
man falling out of a window during the time it takes them to get from the 5th story to the ground,
See,
you will never
this
be able
face
to
is a bit
accomplish
deformed.
monumental work. So there's this massive
Good
emphasis on
thing
this is
CSP has
learning
this
how to get your kind of
liquefy
original
tools. You can
interpretation
just do
of
that
a
and
subject
boom,
down on the
fixed.
paper without
Thank
being
you.
tainted by the artistic expectations of the day. They even held like, sketch competitions, whether it was drawn sketches or painted ones. People wrote books on literally just how to sketch. Students were encouraged to carry
Oh,
a
line
daily
follower
sketch
robot,
around with them,
like
where they just go out
like
and
the
about,
races
it's also
where
interesting.
the
Sketch and
robot
do,
is like
daily
racing.
sketchbook. And the reason for all this is because this is where students could actually express their own ideas and their own individuality without being shackled by the academic standards of the day.
Yeah,
So there were
it's
plenty
fun.
of students who sucked or who weren't that good at the regular exercises, but when it came to just sketching and expressing themselves, they were one of the best. And so incorporating this emphasis on like free flowing and fluidity with their sketches, along with their already highly structured and highly rigid military-like art regimen, resulted in a balance that I think is really key in the kind of art that these guys ended up putting forward. But perhaps it would have meant absolutely nothing if these guys didn't nail the thing that I like to call the growth sweet spot. Now, considering how difficult
The
this project
growth
was, there was
sweet
obviously
spot.
students who were messing up all over the place, and so sometimes their master would come in and draw over their work to show them how it needs to be done, and they kind of had to keep going till they got the thing right. And when they did get it right, they got a nice little pat on the back and got handed even more difficult assignments to keep the difficulty up with their progress. Now, this perfectly encapsulates the difficulty sweet spot. This is where the thing that you're practicing is neither too easy nor too hard.
You guys need to go
Just
back
right
to
in the
Koch.
just at or slightly beyond wherever your current drawing level is at right now, because this forces your skill to expand and meet that demand. And the thing is, they kind of have to keep increasing that difficulty level up to keep up with your growth. So for these old masters,
I'm not
especially
in
those
Goch
learning
right now
about
because
how learning and skill growth
I
works
think
on
my
a
laptop
larger
will
level,
explode if
they would
I'm in
consistently
Goch.
challenge their students like this was like really good.
I have already used 100% of my CPU.
Now remember, the
Power.
point of this entire thing is to look at what these guys did so we can low-key just copy a bunch of it. But the thing is, when it comes to like their structured routines, for example, you obviously don't have to copy every single element one for one. I mean, I guess you can if you want to, but the thing is, like, these guys, they can spend like 2, 3, even 4 years on literally just one phase of drawing, and the entire process from start to finish could take even up to 10 years for some of these students, which they could afford to do because art was going to be their full-time thing. And back then, artists
A
were
Euro
just
side right now.
broke, which is why the way I see it, it makes so much more sense to look into like the underlying principles.
Is
of
it
what they
raining
do
outside?
and like emulate that. Since
Wait,
that's easier, which is why
Look
I
at this.
like
I just draw
also
5
for
fingers. Oh my.
4 specific principles.
I just draw
you can actually,
6
copy.
fingers.
The first one being
I think I'm AI, guys.
formulating their art structure. So if you watched a couple of my slightly
I might
older
be
videos,
AI.
I'm a stickler for like routine and like
I didn't
structure and
realize.
everything. But when I look at how these guys did their thing, what I love most is like the clear path of progression that they had within their overall like art plan. Because these guys knew their goal was to become an elite level painter. And they knew the clear individual steps it would take to get there. Even within those individual steps, there's all these kind of like mini steps. Like for example, in their phase 1 of drawing, where they'd be referencing master
Gosh,
drawings,
it's
they would
so.
start off with doing just line drawings before proceeding
Love.
with like doing shaded drawings. And even in like phase
My
3,
baby.
where they were doing like the live models, they would start off by just trying to first get the gesture down, get the basic proportions down, before trying to graduate to doing more like fully finished drawings. So there's that clear like progression path, even within
Coding
like, each of those
intelligence.
individual steps to their main goal.
I'm
But you also don't
manual
wanna, like, get caught up in,
intelligence.
like the rigid structure and everything. Just like these guys did, you want to incorporate elements of fluidity. You want to be like just having fun every once in a while.
I
Just
keep
having fun every
getting
once in a while. Going outside, scary.
how to translate it for some reason.
Fun, just sketching whatever you see around you. I mean, I guess you could do it indoors too.
In the
I mean, it's not
comments.
that deep. But honing that spontaneity and having that element to things where you're just kind of being more loose and fun with it
Shoot.
is a good balance. Is a good kind of counterbalance with the more like structured side of things. You know what I mean? So the sketching thing specifically is something I'm trying to personally lock in on more frequently. And that ties in really nicely to the just as if not even more important element, which is the sweet spot, right? Like, which is genuinely pushing yourself. And the complicated thing with the sweet spot, the difficulty sweet spot, is that you kind of have to like
I feel like
update
whenever I
your brain,
draw
if that
a
makes sense.
character
So,
that
like,
I
about 2 years ago,
genuinely
I
like,
started
or
drawing the figure,
character
like,
that
just
I
go through Pinterest and see his like ballet looking pose on there. and I just thought to
genuinely.
myself, bro, if I could draw that,
I'm just saying the same thing twice.
but I'm kind of
I was about to say the same thing
In my
twice.
head, that was like the pinnacle of like all of drawing, you know. And so, I
Yeah,
got
whenever I
better
draw
at it,
character that I like,
think the mistake I made, which I only noticed not too
I feel
long
like
ago, was that I
the
tried to push
drawing
the
just
progress
flow
of
on
drawing
itself.
everything, and
You
I kind
know,
of just realized like I'm
the
drawing
drawing is
pictures
speaking to
that are
me
the exact
directly
same
what they want to be.
references that I
Oh my
started
god.
doing like 2 years ago, and I've become more comfortable with it. So what I do need to be doing is like making it harder to stay within that difficulty sweet spot, you know. And there's obviously a bunch of ways to do it, but the way I'm trying to do it is by referencing someone like Michelangelo, because he'd have all these like works where it just be a
I love
table
this
bodies
feeling
just, like,
of drawing,
interacting with each other in all these like super
and
complex ways. And
I don't have to think about
like, the reference is a little bit scary, like,
what
I'm
to
not
draw
sure I
because
can
the
do it,
drawing
which
is
is
speaking to
exactly why
me
I try
what
to
they
do it.
want to
Like,
be. Oh
genuinely
my god.
pushes me, makes me sit back in my chair and think, okay, how am I actually going to make this thing work? The more I do stuff like this, at some point in the future, it's going to become a lot easier to me. And when that happens, I need to kind of like upgrade the difficulty.
Look at
even
this.
more so. Maybe take like the reference and try and draw it in like
I
a
think she
different
would look
perspective
good
or
if
something
there
like
is
that.
like a
Or I can
hanging
be like, okay, I'm satisfied with how good I am at this, and then I can move on
hanging
to trying to get better at something else. You know what I mean? So like upgrading your
things
standards of
over
what you
here.
consider to be difficult as you gradually improve your skill level is kind of cool. Now, the third kind of principle is kind of short, but it's also super important. You probably, I mean, unless you're in like art school or something like that, you probably don't have like an art master or anything crazy like that. As we said not too long ago, in this like French academic system, the masters would be coming to the students and sometimes drawing over their work to like show them how it needed to be done, to kind of like steer them in the right direction. And so a good equivalent of this that you can do is like maybe you draw something with your, maybe like you take a reference, you try and like draw it or whatever, and you just kind of stick the reference under your drawing and kind of like see where you deviated. And obviously you don't need to like be able to make a fully accurate one-for-one copy, but as long as you're kind of like in the ballpark where like the structure is pretty much there, like the proportions are pretty much there and all that stuff, you know, that's a good place to be, I think. And like obviously if you draw like traditionally, then like damn bro, sucks to be you, huh? I guess you can like
What is
print
this
out the
guy
reference
talking
and
about?
stick it under your paper or something. So I think something like that is actually really important, because if you're actually like pushing yourself with the sweet spot stuff, you're probably going to be making a bunch of mistakes, and it can help you like notice maybe certain mistakes that you tend to be making too often. Like maybe you draw eyes way too big or something, which is something I used to really do. I guess there's nothing inherently wrong with that.
You
If you're trying to
talk a lot
actually,
like not
recreate a reference, then, like,
speech
no.
pattern, I mean.
Yeah. And so
I don't know.
The fourth and final principle. The man himself.
What did
Leonardo
what
da
did
Vinci once said, the artist ought to
what did I
first
talk like?
exercise his hand by copying
What kind of
drawings from the
speech
hand of the
pattern
master.
you're talking
So
about?
the system we've been looking at this entire video, throughout the process from like when they just got started up all the way till when they were advanced, one of the main emphases was studying masterworks, whether it was master paintings or master drawings or whatever. Looking at what masters were doing and looking at a lot of those was a really big deal, and one of the main reasons they did this, kind of like expanding the scope of their imagination in a sense by exposing them to like a bunch of different art. Just because there's so much art out there and there's so much good art out there, that being just exposed to it just feels so right, you know? Which is why like Inspiragio,
Why
I don't know if you
does
listen to channels, 'cause it just,
why
like, looks at a
does
lot of
bro
different
say that
paintings,
a lot?
it goes into like the story of the artist
Suck
and like
to
the
be
later
you.
paintings and stuff like that. And just so
I guess it sucked to be
interesting
me.
how so many artists throughout the history have kind of used their art to express their ideas in all these different like unique ways. So genuinely looking at a bunch of good artists and like studying a bunch of great artists is really based.
Is it my accent?
You see, god-tier artists across different eras and styles tend to have relatively similar psychologies. And the kinds of art problems that artists like you or I would face today are the exact same ones that they go through, only except they'd figure the game out and then become some of the best artists ever. And so that difference right there, that contrast is what we're going to examine today, so that we can understand the psychology of some of these behemoths and apply that to our own art. Now, one of the most glazed artists today is John Singer Sargent, and for good reason. He was really good at capturing reality in just a handful of masterfully placed brushstrokes, and that ease and simplicity is what everyone talks about, with no one ever mentioning the sheer hell this guy went through just to get one of these paintings right. Which sucks because understanding his process reveals the psychology that makes him so good. And so let's have a look at this painting. On the surface, it's
What
just
do
quintessential
working
Sargent,
with
perfectly rendered skin contrasted by brushwork. It looks like scribbles of
like
color
this?
perfectly when you take a step back.
I think it's
But
cute,
that's just a
but
surface,
it's
'cause
kind of
this
hard
painting
drawing
gives
that
the
kind
guy
of
an
boots.
absolute
I'm not
nightmare.
used
See,
to.
when the model initially sat down for the portrait, Sargent liked the natural positions that her hands fell into, and so he begged her to hold
She's
that pose so
a
he could
she's
paint it. So she
a
did, and the painting was going
a
great,
lower
right? He
drop,
just didn't like
a
how
lower,
those
a little
hands
bit
were
of
moving, so he spent
lower
the paint on
lower
it.
drop is.
So he didn't like the redo either.
She's
So he had to
a
scrape that off and redo it.
aerospace,
And
not
again, and
aerospace.
again, and again.
She's
And for
a
whole 2 hours, one of the most acclaimed painters in all of history is
aircraft
struggling his
engineer.
hardest to get those damned hands right, but he just simply could not. Now, this wasn't really uncommon for him, because making a bunch of these errors and mistakes and failing and like trashing and discarding all this art, this was something that was a thing for him. But the difference, the separator, so to speak, is in how he responds to these kinds of situations, because he's trying to get this lady's hands right, but he he's erratic. He's like walking, he's pacing up and down. He's telling himself, Gainsborough would have done it. Gainsborough would have done it. He would have gotten it right. Gainsborough was an artist from an earlier time that Sargent really looked up to. Unfortunately, they ended up running out of time for the portrait, so Leslie, the lady, had to come back a few days later to finish it up. And so when she comes in for the next session, not only does Sargent get the hands right, he gets them right with ease. For the countless amount of times that he messed them up, in the actual attempt where he got it right,
I don't want to draw the shoes. Feels like too much work, and sometimes I got to focus on the shoes, and it took too long drawing the shoes. Just me drawing the shoes.
Sargent's situation here isn't unique to him.
But it's like, to be, I mean, the video keeps saying that. Yeah, I noticed that.
We can see how
Noticed that as well.
Positions with figure positions. Now he'd be constantly changing things around until he actually liked it. Hayao Miyazaki. We're gonna talk more about Miyazaki in a bit. But when he sketches something out that doesn't exactly fit what he wants, he just trashes it, discards it, and it just keeps going until he actually comes up with something that he thinks is kind of decent. And so whether or not you make tons of errors and mistakes in your drawing isn't the thing that matters, but it's in how you respond to them. Because cliche as it might sound, if Sargent got into his own head because he couldn't get those hands right, he would have either just given up or try to stay within his comfort zone and do something that was
I'm gonna refill my water.
Easier for him. And if that's the mindset he was coming in with his art, he never would have gone that good in the first place. That here we are, like 100 years later, still talking about him. So yes, bro, if your sketchbook is made, you want to like tear your eyes out. Just know you're in good company. Literally every artist in all of art history ever has gone through that. Hayao Miyazaki. Miyazaki's been really influential over the past couple of decades. I mean, what's to be said about Ghibli's art that hasn't been said already, right? It's just fantastic. Yet, while he was making one of these films, he went through, I think, a problem that 99% of all artists ever can relate to. In 2006, while working on the film, Miyazaki visits a museum in London, and he's absolutely taken aback by the art that he saw there. Particularly by this painting, Ophelia. He was blown away by how meticulously the details were rendered and how perfectly the values were handled. And so this visit kind of made him feel like his own work was just kind of shoddy in comparison. Which, I mean, name me an artist who's never been there, right? Now this kind of shows two things. He comes away from this museum trip with that universal artist feeling where he felt like he'd seen art that was just way better than his. But against that response to that, because upon seeing all this better art, he doesn't wallow in a perceived sense of inferiority, as a lot of artists seem to instinctively do, but rather, the effect this experience has on him. That kind of made him realize that he had to raise his own standards and to go harder in trying to make something genuinely remarkable. And this sort of experience isn't necessarily uncommon among a lot of elite artists.
저도 어릴 때부터 지금도 그렇지만 저 사람 그림처럼 그렇진 않아요. 정말 지금도 인스타를 보면은 와 이거 왜 이렇게 그리지, 왜 이렇게 잘 그리지 이런 사람들이 너무 많아가지고 이걸 계속 반문하고 다시 또 마음속으로 난 잘하고 있어라고 다시 또 다독이고 이런 과정이 계속 반복이에요.
And you can span this a bunch across the different grades. Like Van Gogh, when Van Gogh was getting into art and he knew that his figure drawings wasn't at the level of other artists, he acknowledged the gap and just doubled down on his studies. If you take it from a slightly different angle, take someone like Togashi, the author of peak fiction. Early on in his mangaka journey, he was shown some manga art that he just felt he would never ever live up to. And that dissatisfaction was literally just fuel for him to double down and just want to draw even more so. which to me answers a question of comparison. I see a lot of artists complain about comparison, and understandably so, but by looking at a bunch of these like situations we've been talking about, the answer doesn't seem to be to find some sort of way to stop comparing your work to other people's, but rather to reframe your reaction to seeing really good art. And there's clearly multiple ways to do this. For example, you could do a Miyazaki, because upon feeling there was a sort of gap between him and the artist that he saw at that museum, he was driven ever more to use all the creative power he could muster to create something incredible. Or you can look at, Togashi or Rengo, who used this gap that they felt between them and the artist around them as even just more justification to double down even more so. So there's all those kinds of ways. Or you could low-key just admire it. That's what I like to do. When I see like really insane art, like some Wallop or something, I look at that and I think, how the hell does a human being have the capacity to make this? And I'm like, oh, good art is kind of like really exciting. I don't know. It just makes me happy. I don't know. But essentially just reframing that reaction, especially in a sort of way where you can kind of make it work for you instead of the other way around, seems to be the way. So the basic central theme should be kind of clear by now. These artists encounter obstacles that should be demotivating, like all these like mistakes and errors and failures, or seeing better art. But not only do these not demoralize them, they flip the script and use them as just stepping stones to getting better, which is cool and all. But what's even cooler is the frame of mind they have to be in to allow them to do this in the first place, to allow them to act like this in the first place. Because from my POV, through and among all the different artists we've talked about so far, that explains everything really gracefully, right? Our hypothesis here is that their underlying perspective is that they know they can always keep getting better, which might seem like a bit of an odd variable, but there's a bunch of psychological research that shows if you have someone who kind of just holds the opinion, just thinks that they can keep getting better at something if they genuinely put the effort in, tend to outperform like someone who just has the opposing opinion that there's some sort of like natural limit to whatever the thing is that they're doing, which makes sense when you apply it to what we've talked about, because that underlying opinion kind of affects how you react to certain stuff. Like if Sargent thought that he was at his absolute limit and there was nothing he could do when he was failing with those hands, he'd never have tried to keep going until he finally nailed it. If Miyazaki thought there was nothing he could do when he walked into that museum and saw all that
I'm back.
art, he just thought, oh, these
Ooh.
artists are just on a naturally higher level than me, then he never
I got
tried to
distracted
use it to
and
take
play
his
with my
film to the next
nephew a bit.
level. It just feels so, it feels so wishy-washy. It feels so like TikTok psychology-ish that if you believe, you can achieve. But the reason an underlying perspective is simple as that. The
Look at
belief
this.
that with effort
62
you can kind of keep
views.
getting better, it
Let's
impacts
watch
your
this.
actions, or rather your reactions. That impacts how you react.
Being an artist is really lonely. And when I say artist, I'm talking about any kind of artist. Anyone that puts a lot of thought into their head about anything that they want to do, whether it be crafting, surgery, painting, bowling, you're an artist. You're someone that just lives and breathes something. And when you wake up, you think about it. And when you go to sleep, you also think about it. No matter who you are out there, if you decide to do YouTube, somehow you become an artist. You wake up thinking about it, you go to sleep thinking about it. And the reason it's lonely is because nobody wants to hear about it. There's nobody in your immediate circle or your life that wants to hear you talk about click-through rates, algorithms, thumbnails, color grading. Nobody wants to hear about stuff like that. I'm guilty of it. My family, they don't want to hear about it anymore. I don't have anyone to talk to, so I just keep these thoughts in my head. And the problem with having these thoughts in my head is that they just stay there and they weigh me down. But I have to let them go. It's constantly on my mind. I feel like one of those mad professors that has a chalkboard. They're writing on it all the time, trying to break through, figure out that final piece of the puzzle. That's constantly how I feel, and it's like what I think about.
Trying to
I'm
get
not
this
trying
guy.
to solve anything complex. I'm just trying to make a better video to share with the world. But the thing is, when you're a lonely artist, a lot of times you do a lot of self-reflection. And sometimes in that reflection, you build up this confidence that I think I figured it out. I'm going to try this. So you go and you try it, you put it out there in the world, and then you find out the analytics said, no, this video sucks. You look at those numbers in your YouTube studio and you think to yourself, damn, maybe I should quit. Maybe I have this all wrong. Maybe I need to go back to the drawing board. And you start having all this self-doubt again. Sometimes people, they break through and they don't have to think about these things. But I think for the majority of creators, they do think about these things. I know I do. And I know I can't be the only one out there because
You are
YouTube
right.
has got to be one of the hardest.
That's why
places
I'm
to
watching
work.
you right now.
I wake up thinking about how I can make it better, and I go to sleep thinking about, damn, why did I make that? And the cycle just continues and continues. So I've done a lot of self-reflection lately, and I just come to realize that if I don't create anything, I just stay in that world of self-doubt, and I end up thinking the world is a better place without my videos. And this doesn't speak for everyone, but I know for myself,
I like
I don't
talking
want to
about
make videos
my
just
thought,
purely documenting my day,
my
everything I'm
dreams.
doing. I think sometimes that stuff is cool,
Not
but I
not
think at the end
talking.
of the
I
day,
mean,
if I'm
I
gonna share
love
any of my
thinking
life with
about it,
you, I want to
and
share
sometimes it's
the
just
triumphs,
too
the
much,
hardships,
and I
just the
had to
progression
share
of
it
someone just trying
somewhere.
to figure things out
I
in
don't
real
like
time.
talking to people
And hopefully
because
you can see it
talking
all
to
take place.
people
I've made it far
require
enough in YouTube where
that person
I've made it to the point
to give
most
the
people don't make it to.
the reaction that I
But
want,
at the same time,
but not everyone have
I'm
the
at the
reaction
point
that I
where
want.
it wouldn't be a
So
complete
it's
loss
better
to
for
just
me to like
never
talk
upload
alone.
again. I'm gonna be honest with you. As a monetized YouTube partner, it's not looking good. I'm not gonna get paid again until 2027. And I'm not saying that the money has everything to do with it, but I think the money is another metric of just how relatable your content is. I don't want to make content that's just relatable to me. I would just put that video on my phone and just watch it by myself. If I'm going to put myself out there, I want to share things that could be beneficial to you. I want to share life experiences. I want to show you that I'm failing in real time. And I also want you to come along if I happen to figure something out. I just think that a lot of times as a content creator, it's easy to get the tables twisted where you think it's all about me and it's just all about my life. But in reality, I just think if you're willing to spend your time and share a few moments watching my video, it's more important for me to make sure that
Something like
I
this.
benefit
What?
your life.
I
At the end of
guess
the 5 minutes,
I have.
you
I
don't
do.
feel
I
like,
do self
damn, I spent
journaling
5 minutes of my life.
stuff
And
like
a
that.
lot of times I'm making videos where I stole minutes from your life. And I apologize. Lately I've been doing a lot of reflecting and just thinking about
Talking
the
about
whole YouTube
reflecting,
process,
I used to
the whole
also
concept of making videos. What
meditate
works? Why do some people make it? Why do some people
every
not?
morning.
And I've just come to realize a lot of it has to do with how much they're willing to share about themselves and
But
how
I
much
guess
they're
I'm
willing
not
to
that
share
depressed anymore.
whatever knowledge they have to help other people. And I guess that's what makes this so frustrating. But I don't want to make this too long. I guess the point is, I just want to make sure that whatever videos I put out, I'm going to try to focus more on making sure I add some kind of value. But I just want to do things a little different. I don't know how I'm going to do it different. And I think that's the beauty of this. I'm just trying to show you someone failing and succeeding in real time.
Yeah. Oh, this is my wall. Watching stream on a stream. I don't know. Sometimes I like people to respond, sometimes not, and they cannot tell which one which. So I think I like making contents where I just talk my thought.
何々っすよってあんま人生で言ったことないんだけど、なんか敬語とタメ口の中間みたいな感じで良さそうだなって思った。
Hello, my name is Johnson Eustace, and I'm about to teach you the drawing lesson.
just say it explicitly. Nah, that's the thing. I don't like talking with people. Because sometimes I expect a reaction, sometimes not. And sometimes the reaction that I want is not the same as what they gave me. So it's kind of make me frustrated. It's frustrating when it did. It's not on them. It's on me. What you bum 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 bum. Dun 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 dun. You're on the shore. My swallow by the river. Sweep us through fucking ground. Everyone copes with feelings differently after all. I guess, yeah. I have a group chat where I can say things whatever I want. Sometimes making new friends scares me. Feels weird. I think I placed the ice wrong. Is it the uncertainty that scares you? I forgot actually. I forgot why I'm scared. It's been a while. But I like my comfort. I like uh I'm weird, you know? And I don't mind being weird. I think it's a good thing. But sometimes not everyone can adapt to it. So yeah, talking with people who I don't know, who I don't understand, scares me a bit. Oh, I like this. I think I started to get the hang of drawing now. Kinda like it. This is, oh no, I'm not starting. I'm starting here. This is the first drawing I did. It's kinda, you know, it's kinda whatever. I do these poses a lot, and I got like, oh my god, I keep doing these poses. It's stressing me out when I'm drawing this. And then I wanted to try drawing from top view, and then I'll draw this, but I keep making it's kind of hard for me to like draw the top view directly. That's why I made these boxes. It really helps drawing in the angle that I want. This, so I just contain the drawing inside these boxes. And then this is the second drawing I made. Second. Pretty cute. Get the angle right. Exactly what I want. Looking at me. And then after this, I draw this. It's pretty basic. Just straight looking at you directly. If you can see, the way I draw eyebrows, right? I'm not really a fan of this kind of eyebrows. This is the eyebrows that I like to draw. And this is the first drawing. This is the second drawing. And finally on the third drawing I nail it. Oh, yeah, I get it. I kinda like this. And then I draw this one where I can try being more expressive and facing this. Even this second one, I try to draw an angle that I'm not used to draw an angle facing the right side instead of the left. It's kind of hard. And then after this one, finally draw uncle. Very cute, my baby. I like this one a lot. And on this new one, yeah, even this sketch of the ad, I'm already liking it. I get the hang of drawing now. I understand this game. This is what you call warm-up, I guess. so hard starting to draw the first, second, and third. It's like everything going wrong with it. Like, I don't like it. We have a new viewer. Who's new viewer? Nama is still is still watching but not commenting. I think. Two. It's okay, Nama. You can keep working on the robots. You can show us the robots later. I don't think there's a mysterious third. Oh, I don't know about that. Hello, mysterious one. A little mysterious one. Shoot. My back. My back is kinda backing. It's getting hard. Yeah, I'd say I like this face, but I don't know how to continue from here. I feel like every move I made is wrong. She's telling me. She's not talking to me. Tell me what you want to be. What you want to be drawing. Sleepy. So sleepy. Earlier when I wake up, I very out of it. Like I was going to make tea with milk, but what I put on is instead a tea and coffee instead of milk. I did taste it. I did test it, and then I made my milk. But I was making a instant noodle right while making the coffee, and then I I tried to pour the milk into the noodle seasoning. Do you know GMTK Game Jam? I think I'm gonna join the GMTK Game Jam. It's tomorrow. Is it tomorrow or the day after? I just wanna try. It's been 2 years since the last time I tried joining a game jam. Same. Should have watched Godot tutorial or something right now. Look at me here drawing. I'm just gonna wing it. See what I can make. Yes, it is. I do. Is this solo things? You can have teams, but I'm doing solo. Going solo. I want to see if I'm already washed or not. I don't know, like this. It's kind of plain, you know. Delete that. Is it gonna be overrun by vibe coders, you think? Well, you can only go so much with pipe coding and game dev. Also, the rules says they can only police the generative AI and music and stuff like that. That's not it. Let me look at the reference. Have you made publicly payable game on each or something? I have two games on each, but both of them are from Game Jam. Wait, on it on the wrong browser. Anata idol. I wanna puke. Oh god. So Hongshu so happy. So happy, so happy. Hola, hola, kawaii. Close that. Oh, do I want to share? I don't know. It's not that good. I made the two game jam was one are for the GMTK 2024. The other is for a local game jam I do with my friend. Two other friend. They do the music. The other one do the art. I wanna do game jam as an artist. I wanna be an artist. Game jam artist. So hard. I was going to join last year game jam, but I didn't manage to find a team on time, so I didn't join the game jam. The GMTK.
If you've watched my YouTube videos before, you've probably noticed that I always start my drawings with simple shapes like boxes, cylinders, figures, nothing complicated. But I've noticed something that confuses a lot of people. How do you go from a bunch of simple shapes to a finished human figure? To someone watching from the outside, it almost looked like I magically started adding
No, I think your game is great. It's
but that's not
very.
what's happening at all. What's really happening is that those
It's
simple
like
shapes are just
a
sealed on
game.
top of years of practice.
Feels like game.
Behind every line I draw is everything I've learned over the past 7 years. Anatomy, proportions, perspective, gesture, construction, and thousands of hours spent studying references. None of that disappears just because I started with a few boxes. I remember watching Kim Jong-gi explain how he visualizes the human body using simple forms like cubes and cylinders. I was completely blown away. But at the same time, I was also confused. I understood the simple shapes, I understood the finished drawing, but I had absolutely no idea how to connect those two. When I first tried drawing this way, I honestly
What
thought
is
it was
your
impossible.
dream game?
I remember telling myself I'll never be able to draw like this. Kim
What-
Jong-gi just felt like he came from another planet.
What is it
Because of
like?
that, I
Your
actually
dreams
thought
game?
drawing with simple shapes wasn't that useful. If I couldn't turn those simple shapes into anatomy, then what was the point? Eventually, I realized the mistake I was making. I thought simple shapes were supposed to teach me anatomy. They're not. They're only the foundation. The construction is just the skeleton of the drawing. Anatomy is an entirely different skill that has to be learned separately. Once I understood that, everything started to make sense. So if you're wondering whether drawing simple shapes first actually helps, my answer will always be yes. But that's only step 1. The next step is studying anatomy. You need to understand the basic proportions of the body, where the major muscles are, how they overlap to each other, and how they stretch, compress, and even change depending on the pose. Trying to draw muscles without studying anatomy is like trying to solve multiplication before you've learned
Oh,
addition. You're
I'm
skipping the
sad you
foundation that
forget
makes
about
everything
me.
else possible. One piece
Just
of advice
kidding.
I give to almost every artist is this: get comfortable using references. You grow and learn thanks to references. You need to study how muscles connect, study how bones
JK.
affect the surface, study how skin folds and stretches. Ask yourself why things look
Why
the
is
way
this
they
guy
do
not
instead of
drawing?
just simply copying what you
Why
see.
am I not drawing?
There's a huge difference between copying and studying. Just imagine your teacher gives your class homework. If you copy your friend's answers without understanding anything, you might finish today's homework, but you haven't
Bullet,
actually learned the lesson.
bullet
But imagine
hell
opening that textbook
rhythm.
yourself. You read it, you understand the concepts, and solve the questions on your own. That's what studying references is. Every observation becomes knowledge that you can use later, even when the reference isn't there anymore. That's why experienced
Oh,
artists
that's
can draw
cool.
from imagination. It's not because they were born with some special ability, it's just because they've spent years filling their visual library. If you want to improve after learning construction, start studying anatomy one section at a time.
My game
Spend a week
with
drawing heads, then
Ray
torsos,
was
then
also
arms, then legs.
bullet
You
hell,
don't have to learn everything at once. Even today, after 7 years of drawing, I'm still learning.
but
I
no
still
rhythm.
study using references. I still make mistakes. The learning really never stops, and I think that's one of the most enjoyable parts of art. Now, how deeply you study anatomy is completely up to you. Some artists memorize nearly every major muscles, others only learn the ones that are most visible. Both approaches can work because anatomy isn't the only skill involved.
I think it's
There's something
doable.
fundamental
It's
that
a
changes the way I
doable
draw.
dream
And I'm
game.
talking about perspective. I know
Give
perspective
it,
has a reputation
give
for
it
being
a
boring.
year
People see
or
great vanishing
two
points, rulers, and strict rules,
and build
and
it.
immediately think it kills creativity. Believe me, I used to think the exact same thing. But the reason I fell in love with drawing wasn't anatomy, it was perspective. The moment I understood that every object exists in three-dimensional space, everything clicked. Every object has an X, Y, and Z axis. Once you understand that, you stop copying lines. You start constructing forms. Cars become collections of boxes.
I want to
Buildings
draw
become
one more,
collections of boxes.
and
Even the
then
human body becomes a collection of simple forms that you can
dip.
rotate in any direction.
Wanna
If
draw
perspective
one
feels
more.
overwhelming, don't start with 3
Let's
points.
see.
Start with 1
Speak
point
to me,
perspective.
drawing. Speak to me.
Learn
What
how
do
simple
I want to
forms
draw?
behave, then gradually
Yeah,
move
yeah,
on.
like
One
that.
problem
Cha
I see
cha
all the
cha
time is
cha
that
cha
artists
cha.
think
Yes,
perspective only means
yes,
drawing
yes.
grids.
Make her.
That's only one way to
Yes,
practice.
yes, yes.
I think
Yes,
there are
yes,
actually
yes.
2 different approaches.
Keep
The
going,
first
keep
one is
going.
calculated practice. This
Sure,
is where you
sure,
use vanishing
sure,
points,
sure,
perspective
sure, sure,
grids,
sure,
rulers, and all the traditional
sure,
rules.
sure,
The
sure,
second
sure,
one
sure.
is intuitive practice.
Sure,
This is
sure,
where you
sure,
observe
sure,
the world
sure,
around you and
sure,
try
sure,
to
sure.
understand how forms
Sure,
rotate
sure,
in
sure.
space without
She's
relying
playing
on
a.
time.
She's playing her phone.
After talking
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah, yeah,
countless
yeah.
artist friends over the years,
Sure, sure,
I've
sure,
noticed
sure,
something
sure.
interesting. Most
She's
artists naturally
she's
lean to the
have her
one side.
leg up.
Some are incredibly
Hell yeah.
intuitive. They don't think much about perspective rules anymore. They simply understand forms through experience.
Hell yeah. We
Others are
got
more
the
analytical.
sketch
They want
done.
every line to be perfectly accurate and mathematically correct. So which one is better? Honestly, neither.
Oh
The
my
best artists
god.
usually learn from both.
She's kinda
Rules
cute.
build your understanding. Your intuition lets you draw freely. You actually need
You
both.
get the sketch
Too much
done,
logic
and
can
then
make drawing
you can
frustrating.
draw it.
Too much intuition can create bad habits.
The drawing
Finding a
speak to me.
balance is where the real growth happens. I just want to leave one final thought with this topic. I've been drawing for 7 years. When people watch me draw today, they're only seeing the final result. They're not seeing the thousands of bad sketches I've done, the unfinished anatomy studies, the perspective exercises, the drawings that completely fell apart, even the moments where I questioned whether I was improving at all. All of
It's
those
a
invisible
bit beef
hours
of
are
mine when
part
games
of
like
every
Theory
drawing I
Element, they
make
have
today.
banger boss,
That's why I
vibe,
think
soundtrack,
comparing yourself to another
and they
artist
don't
is
relate to what's
one of the
happening on
easiest ways
screen.
to lose motivation.
I guess
You're
it's
comparing
kinda
your
hard.
current chapter to someone else's entire journey.
Play.
You don't know how many years
I'm
they've practiced.
not
You don't know how many
very
mistakes they've made. You don't even know how
rhythm
many
game
times they
player
almost quit.
myself.
Every artist is standing on top of a different amount of experience. That's why comparison is never fair. Instead of asking, why am I not as good as them? Ask yourself, what can I learn today that I didn't know yesterday?
I think
Small
I'm not
improvements
playing games
repeated
enough.
over months and years eventually become skills that feel effortless. People often call that talent. I don't. Talent might
People
take an
keep telling
adult,
me
but
to
skill
play
is
more
what grows
games.
through it. Or to put it another way, talent is potential, skill is proof. Every hour you spend studying, every mistake you correct, and every drawing you finish is another brick added to the artist you're becoming. So don't rush the process, keep building
By the
your
way, talking about
foundations,
Terraria,
keep studying, keep drawing. One day,
I
you will
played
look back at your
Terraria
old drawings and realize
once
that all of those little
with
pieces of knowledge
friends,
quietly came together into the artist
but
you always wanted to become. If you're still here,
because I
thanks for
cannot
sticking
like
around.
consistently
I know this can
join
turn
them.
into a bit of a rant, but it's something I've wanted to talk
I
about
just
for a while.
missed the
While you were
boss.
watching this time lapse, I wanted to
They
share the
finished the
thought process
game.
that helped me go from simple shapes to drawing anatomy with more confidence. Hopefully you got something useful out of it, whether it's a new way of thinking about construction, anatomy perspective, or just a reminder that learning to draw is a long-term journey. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate if you left a like or a comment. It genuinely helps the channel reach more people, and it lets me know what kinds of videos you'd like to see next. And if you'd like to support me even further, I also have a Patreon where I post exclusive artwork, anatomy post reference sheets, behind the scenes content, and a few spicier drawings as well. You can find a link in the description if you'd like to check it out. Thanks again for watching, take care, keep drawing, and I'll see you in the next one.
What do you mean, what do I play?
Art takes so long.
Oh my god.
I know that if I want to get
Picat.
good, I'm gonna
I
have
love.
to practice and do art
I love
studies,
Picat.
but that's boring. So I keep procrastinating and putting it off, and I just end up playing games instead. If only drawing was as fun as playing video games. However, what if I told you that it can be? But how? Especially if we're just starting out, our drawings don't exactly look great. How can we possibly enjoy being bad at something? I can't help but think that drawing would be so much easier if I were able to make drawings that I was satisfied with. I don't want to be an art god or anything. I just want to be good enough so that I don't disappoint myself constantly. Surely that isn't asking for too much? However, there was a very big flaw in this way of thinking that I didn't realize before. That being good at something doesn't automatically mean I'll enjoy it. For example, do you know about Andre Agassi, the former professional tennis player? Famously, he wrote this about tennis in his memoir. I hate tennis. Hate it with a dark and secret passion, and always have. Which goes
They
to show that
don't-
simply being the best in the world at something doesn't mean that you'll automatically enjoy it. But then again, he's an
They
anomaly,
don't
and
wait for
also
me.
that's sports, right?
What a
Completely different
bastard.
from art. Okay then, what
Just
about
kidding.
Michelangelo? You know, the guy that painted the Sistine Chapel. Apparently, he despised painting the ceiling, and claimed that painting was not
I
his art,
like
preferring
games.
sculpture.
I
Now,
like
don't get me wrong,
strategy
it does help a
games.
lot to be happy with your own work, knowing that you can get a decent
And
results and therefore satisfaction and a sense
also
of
like
achievement to look forward to.
visual novel,
That can make the struggle a
but
lot
the
more
one that
tolerable. But there's a
that
big reason that the
usually
final
have
result
like
cannot be the entire reason that someone draws. And that
old
is, no artist is
medieval
ever
theme like
guaranteed
that.
to have a good result every time. Perhaps you might be thinking, there's no way that could be true. There are these amazing, incredible artists on social media, right? And every single one of their art pieces are bangers. Their time lapses, flawless. But remember, that's social media, not real life. Of course, artists only post the pieces that they're proud of. We have no way of knowing how many bad drawings they made in between their posts. After all, social media is just a highlight reel of the moments people choose to present to the world. a little glimpse of their complicated lives. Even legends like the late Kim Jong-gi, whose work
Sometimes I
seemed
play
flawless with
games
mistakes,
just
but he was
because
able to incorporate those errors seamlessly into his work.
I have
So if
someone
even
to
the
talk
best artists in the world make bad drawings,
about the
then
games.
regular people like you or I definitely can't avoid them.
And
But not only
talking
that,
about the
because
game,
what if I
talking
told you
about
that we don't actually want to avoid
it
bad
is
drawings?
kind of fun.
Let's take a step back and think about this for a second. What is a bad drawing? It's a drawing that the artist isn't satisfied with, right? What does it mean when we make one? Does it mean that we're a bad artist? Well, no. It just meant that we made some bad art. However, I think that making bad art is actually a crucial part of learning how to draw. Personally, I found that making bad art full of mistakes and then correcting them was the best way of learning for me. And unfortunately, I found that out the hard way. Years and years ago, I used to refuse to ever let myself fail. Why subject myself to all that embarrassment and humiliation? But what I didn't realize was that by doing that, I was depriving myself of the opportunity to grow and learn. And what's more, because my standards for myself were so high, anything less than professional I considered a failure. I think that's actually one reason that kids seem to have an easier time picking up new skills like drawing. They haven't spent decades consuming incredible, well-crafted, high-quality media, which means that, unlike adults, they don't have very high standards for art yet, including the art they make with their own hands. So they're much less likely to feel discouraged by what they create, and so they find it easier to keep going and have fun with it. Unfortunately, us older folks can't do that. We're gonna have to find some other way of deriving fun and satisfaction. So what if, instead of obsessing over every individual drawing, we zoom out and look a little bit more long-term? What if we focus on our progress instead? As learners, it makes perfect sense that our first drawings don't look the best, but as we keep learning and practicing, the next drawing is gonna look better, and the one after that will be even better. We can use this improvement as a way to motivate ourselves to keep going, with one important caveat. I was dissatisfied with my art for a very long time, and so I worked hard to study fundamentals and try to get better at it. But even with weeks and months of hard work, my drawings weren't getting any better. It was honestly pretty rough. I actually ended up quitting art for an extended period back then, but that's a story for another time. But there was one thing I didn't know about art back then, and that is, learning takes a very long time. Much longer than I expected. When a beginner starts learning a skill, they're likely to see quick gains and big jumps in skill, kind of like when someone first starts going to the gym. However, as we accumulate more experience, these improvements get harder and harder to see. Eventually, it starts taking years for us to see any progress, or maybe even longer. And that's a pretty long time period to be not seeing any improvement. And worse yet, no matter
Ooh,
how
I'm
much we
kinda
try
tired.
to avoid it, something even more terrible happens. And we end up plateauing and not improving for a long time. As far as I know, there's no easy way to break out of it, which means that progress can't be depended on as a reliable way to motivate ourselves, especially as we get more skilled. What can we do?
True, Pickup. I'm agree with
Let me
you.
share
I'll
with you
agree
what I like
with
to
you.
think about when I draw, which is to focus on the process, the simple joy of creating something from nothing. Forming an entire illustration out of a bunch of individual strokes, watching it gradually take form.
I love drawing. I love drawing my
Wait,
friends.
that
I love
doesn't look
when
good?
I got reaction
Maybe
from
like
them.
this. Oh, I messed the legs up. Let me try again. Ugh, how can it possibly be fun to make so many mistakes and have to start over and over again? Isn't that frustrating? Imagine playing a game where you keep losing all your progress and having to do the same thing over and over again. Who'd want to play that? But here's the thing. In a way, I actually do think about drawing kind of like playing a video game. But not like a linear game, more like an open world game. I might have some kind of idea of my goal or desired result. However, I can't simply go from blank canvas to completed illustration with no detours. Drawing isn't so simple a task. Much like how obstacles or enemies in a video game are only relevant when you're actually right in front of them, certain problems in an illustration really only reveal themselves much later on in the process. It's like exploration. Except
What
in
is that?
art, we have
What is
infinite
that
possibilities.
reference to?
Issues will
Take a
arise,
rest,
but we
just
can deal
live.
with them as we get there. And solving those issues is actually part of the fun as well. Remember, when we're drawing, we're not just randomly drawing lines on a page. There is a purpose, which is visual communication. We're trying to express something, be it an emotion or a message, through an image, and we're trying to figure out a good way of doing that. It's almost like solving a puzzle. For example, the human body is super complicated, so we need to figure out a way of managing all that complexity. One way of doing that is to simplify it into basic shapes like boxes and cylinders. I find figuring these solutions out a lot of fun. But here's the thing. Even though it is fun, it's not always fun. Nothing worth doing in life is fun all the time. If you're trying to level up in art, sometimes you do have to sit down and draw 100 boxes, and that's not exactly the most exciting. What can we do in this case? For me, the most important thing is to make sure I understand the purpose of the study. Those boxes I was talking about, if I'm just drawing them and not really understanding why, it feels pointless. I can't get myself excited about it. However, it gets a lot more interesting if I understand
gonna
how
take
the study will benefit me.
a
For example, I
rest.
get written up at boxes. Eventually, I'll be able to construct these mannequins, and then eventually full human figures. And that's not the only strategy I have. I can also make the
Yeah,
study
I
itself
think
fun
that will
by
be
turning it
all
into something
for
I
the
want
stream
to draw.
today.
If I'm doing head and face studies, for
I'm
example,
kinda
I might turn
tired.
them into characters
I
that
want to lay
to draw.
down and
Unfortunately, this
like watch doom scroll. Okay guys, thank you for chatting with me. Thank you Faye. Thank you Nama in the background. I'm going to go rest. See you.